Doupo, outstanding intelligence. Starting by joining the chat group. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 76. The Source of the Demons Revival. Xiao Fan takes action again. It turned out that the island country with a terrain like a bug wanted to develop a means to create biochemical people in secret. Like many other experiments, mice became the initial test subjects, and nuclear materials were injected into nearly 100 mice. Among the nearly 100 mice, only the remaining one survived and mutated. The physical mutation was secondary, mainly because its soul also mutated and possessed human wisdom. So this mouse disguised itself very well at the beginning, allowing the testers to continuously inject nuclear materials and other modifications into it. After several years of growth, the strength of this mouse was greatly enhanced, and then in the middle of the night, it directly bit all the testers to death and swallowed them into its stomach, becoming its rations, which was regarded as revenge for its companions. Afterwards, this mouse used those test materials to give birth to many subordinates, and at a very terrifying speed, it eroded and affected the soul consciousness of many high-level figures in the country. In order to retaliate against humans, this mouse subtly influenced some decision-makers and made them decide to discharge sewage into the sea, wanting to create more mutant animals starting from the ocean. It was able to think of so much because after eating those test subjects, it inexplicably absorbed their soul consciousness and chose the best method from the many ideas of those humans. After all, the number of animals in the ocean is too large, and generally does not attract human attention. If it were on land, I am afraid that the signs of mutant creatures would be quickly extinguished. These mutant animals are the original predecessors of demons. In addition to revenge on humans, this mouse did this for another reason, that is, it found that a crystal had grown on its head. That crystal can continuously release mysterious substances that cause animals to become demons, and can also absorb the energy of demons or that mysterious substance at any time. It releases a ray, transforms other animals, and then absorbs it back, and it can get 100 times or 1,000 times the harvest. If it were not too timid and had been hiding underground to secretly absorb demon energy, but had gone directly to the demon area to absorb crazily, I am afraid that it would have been so powerful by now. What Xiao Fan was most interested in was that this mutant mouse, based on the characteristics of the country, used some pseudo-god methods, combined with medical technology, to plant its soul seeds in the souls of most of the people in power in this country. When this mouse attacked Xiao Fan's soul by self-destructing its soul, the soul consciousness of the people whose soul seeds it planted would be destroyed instantly. After Xiao Fan refined and absorbed all the soul power of this mutant mouse, the soul consciousness of those people was also directly refined synchronously, and directly turned into a body without soul consciousness. In other words, those people died directly and turned into corpses. My goodness, I directly abolished this disgusting small country's powerful nobles with my own strength. After sorting out the messy memory information of the mutant mouse, Xiao Fan couldn't help but be surprised. No, I am a 5-good youth. How could I do such a cruel thing? It was the mouse who did it. This is called playing with fire and getting burned. Xiao Fan shook his head slightly and sighed. Boom. Xiao Fan swung his palm, and the terrifying power of thunder directly purified the underground palace completely. Then he broke through the space again and went directly to the imperial capital of this country. Xiao Fan was going to verify whether the information he got from the mutant mouse was accurate. Under Xiao Fan's powerful soul-sensing power, he quickly scanned the entire imperial capital, and everything in the imperial capital was exposed in front of him. Xiao Fan's powerful soul power swept over and soon found out that the mouse's messy memory was actually true. Even the guardian of the country was also a mouse, but it had died at this moment. Xiao Fan was somewhat happy to know this. There are quite a few minerals in this land, which can be used by the country where Xiaoxiao is. Thinking in his heart, Xiao Fan directly broke through the space, and in a blink of an eye he was again beside Xiaoxiao, Long Wu and others. It's a long story, but in fact, it took less than half an hour from Xiao Fan's departure to his return. Mr. Long, Xiaoxiao, come here. After Xiao Fan returned, he called out to Long Wu and Su Xiaoxiao. Upon hearing this, the two came to Xiao Fan without hesitation. Su Xiaoxiao asked curiously, "Mr. Xiao, what's wrong? Where did you go just now?" Xiao Fan said, "I already know the source of the demon's revival, and I have solved most of it. It's up to you to deal with it later." Immediately, Xiao Fan told Long Wu and Su Xiaoxiao all of his findings. While Xiao Fan was talking, he had already used his fighting spirit and soul power to set up double protection, and the satellite live broadcast could not detect their conversation at all. "Damn little Sakura!" Su Xiaoxiao was furious upon hearing this. Long Wu was also furious, but he managed to control his emotions. "Mr. Zhao, what you said is too shocking. If there is no definite evidence, I'm afraid the people above will find it hard to believe and will not be able to take any measures." Xiao Fan said casually, "You must have your own lurkers there. Let them pay attention to whether the main figures of that country suddenly stop making any moves. This is a great opportunity. If you miss it, it's your problem." "Thank you, Mr. Zhao. I will report to the higher-ups immediately." Long Wu thanked him solemnly and then walked aside to make a phone call. "Whatever you want." Xiao Fan didn't care about it. It was just a matter of convenience. Su Xiaoxiao said to Xiao Fan at this time, "Mr. Zhao, this kind of thing is very complex and I'm afraid it's not easy to handle. Do you have any way to help, for example, these monsters?" Xiao Fan thought about it for a while and soon understood Su Xiaoxiao's plan. "Do you want to send these monsters to that country?" Su Xiaoxiao smiled and said, "Mr. Zhao is really wise and powerful, and he can see through everything. Well, it's not impossible." Xiao Fan stroked his chin and said after a little hesitation, "Your contact person temporarily blocks the signal here and stops live broadcasting. I will take action now." "Okay." Su Xiaoxiao heard this and quickly went to Long Wu and told him about it. Long Wu was talking to his superiors and reported the matter immediately. Soon, the superiors agreed. In their opinion, this is also a way to test whether Xiao Fan's previous words are 100% credible. So soon, the area where Xiao Fan and Su Xiaoxiao were located became a restricted area on the internet, and all the previous live broadcasts were interrupted. Many people watching the live broadcasts around the world couldn't help but complain. "What's going on? Why is the live broadcast interrupted? I don't know what happened. Is it due to magnetic field interference? This situation has not happened before. Since the demons have revived, the network has been disconnected more than once or twice. It's a pity that we can't continue to see the feet of the strong men of the panda country hunting demons." Xiao Fan sensed it and didn't feel any sense of watching. Then he asked Zhu Yuanzhang, Huang Rong and others to return to their respective worlds first, and asked Long Wu to lead the special department to evacuate first. Soon, only Xiao Fan and Su Xiaoxiao were left there. Xiao Fan looked at Su Xiaoxiao with a serious face. "Just stand by my side and don't leave at all." Su Xiaoxiao went up and took Xiao Fan's arm. "Don't worry, Mr. Zhao. I dare not leave." Xiao Fan didn't say much and broke the space wormhole again. But this time, he didn't want to enter the space wormhole himself, but was going to send these demons to that disgusting small country through the space wormhole, without two Zong-level demons. The remaining demons in Xiao Fan's hands were just like ants. Xiao Fan supported the space wormhole while constantly catching demons to throw into the space channel. After 2 hours, Xiao Fan finally stopped his action. With a slight movement of his mind, the space wormhole quickly disappeared. With Xiao Fan's cultivation, he still couldn't support the existence of the space wormhole for a long time. "It's almost done. The demons sent in these 2 hours are enough for them to drink a pot, and without command, the place will soon fall. Let your superiors prepare to finish it." After putting away the space wormhole, Xiao Fan said to Su Xiaoxiao. Su Xiaoxiao had no objection to this and immediately called to give feedback. The things that followed were not what they needed to worry about. "Let's go. I'll take you back, and then I should go back soon," Xiao Fan said again when he saw Su Xiaoxiao finish the call. "Yeah." Su Xiaoxiao nodded in agreement, took Xiao Fan's arm, and returned home with Xiao Fan soon. "Mr. Zhao, take a shower before you go back. Taking a shower in the Qi world is not as convenient and comfortable as here. Xiaoxiao said to Xiao Fan after returning to Xiaoxiao's home. Xiao Fan thought about it and nodded slightly. Okay, speaking of which, he hasn't experienced the modern way of taking a shower for a long time, and he is a little nostalgic. Hunting a large number of monsters before, it is inevitable that some traces were left. As for the change of clothes, Xiao Fan has prepared a lot in his storage ring. After saying something casually, Xiao Fan went into the bathroom to take a shower. Xiao Fan had just taken a half shower when the bathroom door suddenly opened from the outside, and Xiaoxiao walked in with a bath towel and blushing cheeks. I don't dare to write any aliases casually, as long as everyone understands the meaning. Chapter 77 Xiaoxiao's initiative and Xiao Fan's deterrence. After entering the room, under Xiao Fan's gaze, Xiaoxiao turned around and locked the bathroom door. Ahem, what are you doing? I remember locking the door. After Xiaoxiao locked the door and turned around, Xiao Fan coughed and asked, I have a key. Xiaoxiao blushed and whispered, I'm here to help Master Thunder Emperor take a bath. While washing, Xiaoxiao provoked Xiao Fan. Xiao Fan certainly couldn't stand it, and directly launched a counterattack against Xiaoxiao. Soon, a battle broke out. After a fierce battle, Xiaoxiao was defeated. After the battle, the two washed again seriously, and then returned to Xiaoxiao's room. Xiaoxiao leaned on Xiao Fan and said seriously, Mr. Xiao, don't think that I am a very casual person. I just understand that after you go back this time, I don't know when you can come to our world. I must seize the opportunity and can't miss you. Xiao Fan kissed Xiaoxiao's forehead and said softly, you don't have to think too much. I understand everything. Xiaoxiao was relieved when she heard Xiao Fan's words. Xiao Fan accompanied Xiaoxiao for a while, and when he saw that the sky was about to brighten, he said, I should go back and come to accompany you next time. Or, if you are free, you can also come to the Dqi world to find me. Yeah, Xiaoxiao nodded in response, although she was a little reluctant. Xiao Fan dressed neatly, kissed Xiaoxiao goodbye, and then used the chat group's shuttle function to return to the Dqi world. After returning to the Dqi world, Xiao Fan simply washed up with King Lin's service, and then had a simple breakfast in the Modi mercenary group. After breakfast, Xiao Fan, accompanied by King Lin, strolled around Shimo City again. After strolling for a while, a mercenary from the Desert Iron mercenary group suddenly ran over to look for Xiao Fan. The mercenary was sweating and panting, and he could hardly speak. What's wrong? Xiao Fan used his fighting spirit to comb his body, and then asked lightly. With the help of Xiao Fan's fighting spirit, the mercenary recovered a lot and said quickly, Third Master, when we were exploring the Tiger Desert, the Sand mercenary group suddenly came out to obstruct us. A violent conflict broke out between the two sides. The Fourth Master asked me to ask you for help. Xiao Fan raised his eyebrows slightly when he heard this. He almost overlooked this Sand mercenary group. In the original work, Xiao Yan asked the Desert Iron mercenary group to help search the area where the strange fire was, which also caused interference from the Sand mercenary group. Xiao Yan then went directly to find Rob, the leader of the Sand mercenary group. With the help of Yao Chen, he shocked Rob and later let the Desert Iron mercenary group annex the Sand mercenary group. Rob also became a member of the Desert Iron mercenary group. Now, Yao Chen knew how powerful Xiao Fan was and wanted to avoid taking action himself, so he asked Xiao Yan to ask Xiao Fan for help. Xiao Fan asked casually, which direction? West of the city, Third Young Master. I will lead the way for you, the mercenary said respectfully. Xiao Fan said lightly, no need, just go back to the mercenary group space, and leave the rest to me. After that, Xiao Fan put his hand on King Lin's slender waist, stepped into the air, and flew quickly to the west outside the Stone Desert City. Xiao Fan did not use Space Shuttle directly, but planned to hide a trump card, and this distance was fast enough to fly over. Zong. The mercenary saw Xiao Fan and King Lin flying directly into the air, and his eyes widened immediately, and he was stunned. Xiao Fan took King Lin out of the Stone Desert City. While flying, he released a powerful soul-sensing power. After a while, Xiao Fan sensed the breath of Xiao Ding, Xiao Li, and Xiao Yan in the desert, and flew directly to them. Seeing Xiao Fan and King Lin falling from the sky, The two sides who were fighting subconsciously stopped attacking and took a few steps back. Third brother, you are here. Xiao Ding smiled when he saw Xiao Fan coming. Xiao Li and Xiao Yan also greeted Xiao Fan. Swish. The people of the Sand Mercenary group originally thought that Xiao Fan was a passing expert, but at this moment, seeing the relationship between Xiao Fan and the three brothers Xiao Ding, their faces suddenly changed. Behind the Desert Iron Mercenary group, there is such a powerful backer, walking in the air. That is the sign of a Zhong strongman. The people of the Desert Iron Mercenary group were full of excitement. It was also the first time they saw the powerful strength displayed by Xiao Fan. After Xiao Fan and Xiao Ding finished greeting each other, they turned their heads to look in the direction of the Sand Mercenary group and said lightly, "Who among you is Rob?" Upon hearing this, the expressions of the people in the Sand Mercenary group changed, and then a burly man stepped forward and answered, "I am Rob." If we had known the relationship between you and the Desert Iron Mercenary group, we would never dare to attack the Desert Iron Mercenary group. Now I know. Xiao Fan glanced at Rob and said lightly, "Since you have offended my brother, you must pay the price." Rob's face changed slightly when he heard this, and he said with some fear, "I wonder what price the senior wants us to pay?" Xiao Fan said, "You lead all the people in the Sand Mercenary group to join the Desert Iron Mercenary group. From now on, I don't want to hear the name of the Sand Mercenary group again." Rob was relieved when he heard Xiao Fan's words. Although Rob was a little distressed to give up his family business, compared with his life, what was this little family business? "Thank you for your kindness, senior. After I return to the city, I will go through the formalities immediately. As long as Captain Xiao Ding doesn't mind, I will bring everyone to join the Desert Iron Mercenary group." Rob thought in his heart, but he answered quickly, fearing that Xiao Fan would change his mind. "That's it, you guys go away." Xiao Fan waved his hand and said casually, "Yes, I'll go away now." Rob agreed respectfully, and then left with the people of the Sand Mercenary group. Seeing this scene, everyone in the Desert Iron Mercenary group was immediately proud and full of admiration for Xiao Fan. "Brother, your burden will be heavier next time." After Rob and others left, Xiao Fan looked at Xiao Ding and said with a smile. Xiao Ding said with some worry, "I am not as strong as Rob now. I am afraid that he will change his mind after you leave." Xiao Fan said casually, "It's a small problem. With Yanzi and I here, it won't be long before you and your second brother can break through to the great fighting master level." Xiao Ding was happy to hear this. "If so, then there is no problem." Boom. Xiao Fan suddenly felt that the ground beneath his feet seemed to tremble. Xiao Fan released a powerful soul force, gradually expanding the sensing range, and soon found that a fierce battle seemed to be taking place in the desert. More importantly, Xiao Fan also sensed a strong burning breath. "Brother, second brother, today's exploration is cancelled. You take everyone back to the city first. I have found something in the desert and I am going to check it out myself. King Lin, you will go back with my brother later." After a slight hesitation, Xiao Fan said to Xiao Ding and Xiao Li, "Okay, third brother, be careful." Xiao Ding reached out and patted Xiao Fan on the shoulder, and said solemnly, "I will." Xiao Fan responded, and then flew away directly. "Third brother, take me with you." Xiao Yan looked at Xiao Fan's back and couldn't help shouting, but he didn't get a response. Chapter 78 Xiao Yan's Decadence. Going deep into the snake tribe. Xiao Fan's speed was so fast that when Xiao Yan opened his mouth, he had already flown deep into the desert. Xiao Fan quickly arrived at the sky based on the position of the fluctuations sensed by his soul. Xiao Fan did not hesitate at all and slapped the desert below with his palm. Boom. The next moment, a deafening sound rang out in the desert. The originally flat desert ground was directly shaken out by Xiao Fan's palm into a large pit hundreds of meters deep. Through the pit, Xiao Fan saw a fiery red world. It was a huge magma pool, with fiery red magma flowing slowly in it. Xiao Fan knew that this must be the magma pool where the Azure Lotus Earth Core fire was located. Immediately, Xiao Fan did not hesitate at all and flew directly from the pit to a place several meters above the magma pool. "I'm a step late." Xiao Fan looked at the magma world and couldn't help but feel a little regretful. However, Xiao Fan did not rush to leave, but released his soul power to sense the depths of the magma world. After a while, Xiao Fan made a discovery and flew directly to the depths of the magma world. In the center of the magma world, in the rolling magma, there was actually a cyan lotus. The cyan lotus was surrounded by 8 cyan leaves, just like the most perfect jade that was naturally perfect. At first glance, it was crystal clear, making people feel like they couldn't let it go. In the lotus, there was a small lotus platform about 2 or 3 feet long. Some holes on the lotus platform emitted a little fluorescence, but it was a lotus seed condensed from the purest fire attribute energy. Under the cyan lotus, there was a root stem more than 10 meters long, which was madly absorbing the violent fire attribute energy and the magma. There was no doubt that this lotus platform was originally the residence of the azure lotus earth core fire, but now there was no trace of the azure lotus earth core fire on the lotus platform, but instead there was a colorful scale. It seems that the fluctuations I just sensed were the final blow of Queen Medusa and the azure lotus earth core fire. Medusa finally succeeded in taking the azure lotus earth core fire away. Xiao Fan stretched out his hand and took the colorful snake scales into his hand, murmuring. However, he was not disappointed. After he collected the lotus platform and lotus seeds here, he would go to Queen Medusa to ask for the azure lotus earth core fire. Xiao Fan had read the original book, so he naturally knew that the lotus platform and lotus seeds were treasures, and he had prepared a jade sword in advance. Xiao Fan's mind moved slightly, and he took out the jade sword from the ring, cut off the rhizome under the lotus seed, and took the lotus seed into his hand. As for the rhizome, Xiao Fan thought about it and decided to leave it. Xiao Fan counted and found that there were 11 lotus seeds inside the lotus seed, so he took out 11 porcelain bottles and put these lotus seeds into them respectively. Finally, he put all the porcelain bottles and lotus seeds into the ring. After doing all this, Xiao Fan took a last look at the root that was madly absorbing the fire attribute energy, and then his figure flashed, flew directly out of the magma world, and returned to the ground. Huh? They are here too. Xiao Fan was about to follow the breath and track Queen Medusa in the direction of the snake tribe, but suddenly sensed the breath of Xiao Yan and Yao Chen, who were rapidly approaching his position, so he stopped temporarily. After a while, Xiao Yan's figure appeared in front of Xiao Fan, but on Xiao Yan's body was Yao Chen's breath. Xiao Fan frowned slightly and pretended to be surprised and said, "Yao Chen, what do you mean? Are you trying to take over Xiao Yan's body?" While speaking, Xiao Fan slightly released the aura of a Zhong strongman towards Xiao Yan. "Don't be impulsive. This is Xiao Yan asking me to temporarily control his body, so that I can catch up with you faster. Otherwise, I won't do such a thankless thing. As for the matter of taking over the body, you are totally overthinking it." Seeing Xiao Fan's reaction, Yao Chen quickly explained, and then returned the control of the body to Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan immediately said, "Third brother, what my teacher said is true. You misunderstood him." Xiao Fan nodded slightly and retracted his aura. Xiao Yan was relieved to see that the misunderstanding was resolved, and asked Xiao Fan, "Third brother, you came here first. Did you see who was fighting just now?" Xiao Fan said, "When I came, the battle was over. However, according to my judgment, one side of the battle was Queen Medusa, and the other side was the azure lotus earth core fire, which is ranked 19th on the strange fire list." It was not a battle between humans. Xiao Yan was anxious when he heard this. "I wonder if that azure lotus earth core fire," Xiao Fan said casually, "it should have been taken away by Queen Medusa." "Ah, then didn't we make a wasted trip?" Xiao Yan was depressed when he heard Xiao Fan's words. "It's all my fault that I didn't get the materials to absorb the azure lotus earth core fire earlier." Xiao Fan smiled faintly. "Okay, don't be depressed. Although Queen Medusa took away the azure lotus earth core fire, it was impossible for her to absorb it so quickly. I was going to the snake tribe to find her and take back the azure lotus earth core fire. If I hadn't found you coming, I would have tracked down Medusa long ago." Upon hearing this, Xiao Yan said worriedly, "Third brother, will it be dangerous for you to go to the snake tribe?" "Don't worry, I have already reached the level of Zhong. The strongest Queen Medusa in the snake tribe is only at the peak of Huang. It won't be dangerous." Xiao Fan responded with a smile, and continued, "You guys go back first, so that I don't have to take care of you." Xiao Yan said, "Then third brother, you should be careful." "Okay, that's it. I'll go after Queen Medusa." Xiao Fan nodded in response, and then he walked into the air and followed the snake tribe. Xiao Yan looked at Xiao Fan's flying back, and his eyes were filled with envy. "Teacher, When do you think I can break through to Zhong? Yao Chen said lightly. Don't be too ambitious. You should break through to Qi first. Xiao Yan touched his head awkwardly when he heard Yao Chen's words. Okay, let's go back to Shimo City directly. I will practice with all my strength when I get back. No hurry. Let's go down first. Maybe there will be unexpected gains. Yao Chen made suggestions to Xiao Yan after hearing this. Yao Chen had a certain understanding of the Azure Lotus Earth Core Fire, and felt that Medusa and Xiao Fan were not alchemists, and perhaps they failed to take away the lotus seed that held the Azure Lotus Earth Core Fire. When Xiao Yan heard Yao Chen's words, his eyes suddenly showed expectation, and he used the flying fighting skills to fly down to the magma world from the pit that Xiao Fan had shaken out before. However, Xiao Yan was soon dumbfounded. In the magma pool, there was nothing left except the Azure Lotus rhizome that was madly absorbing the fire attribute energy. Xiao Yan looked at the bare roots, and felt like crying but couldn't. Xiao Fan naturally didn't know what happened to Xiao Yan after he left. At this time, Xiao Fan had already followed the breath of Queen Medusa all the way to the depths of the Serpent Tribe. Boom! After Xiao Fan entered the range of a temple in the center of the Serpent Tribe, a purple light with strong murderous intent suddenly shot towards his chest. Chapter 79 Medusa's Madness. At the same time, a woman with a face that was almost as beautiful as a voluptuous woman appeared in a corner of the temple. The woman had a pair of narrow and long lavender eyes, and her eyes were full of charm. She was wearing a graceful purple brocade robe, and her delicate body under the brocade robe was graceful and unparalleled. Her long black hair casually fell from her shoulders and vertically between her slender waist. Under the brocade robe, a purple snake tail was exposed, and the snake tail swayed slightly, making her reveal a bit of wildness in her enchantment. At this moment, Queen Medusa looked a bit embarrassed. Most of her purple brocade robe was broken, and there were also burn marks on her arms. There is no doubt that this woman is Queen Medusa, the leader of the snake people. Facing the sudden attack of Queen Medusa, Xiao Fan was not in a hurry. He didn't even move his body, but a black vortex suddenly appeared on his chest. The next moment, the extremely sharp purple light was directly swallowed by the black vortex, and even Xiao Fan's clothes were not damaged at all. After casually diffusing the attack, Xiao Fan smiled and said, "Queen Medusa, I'm here to help you." "It doesn't seem right for you to hurt someone like this," Queen Medusa said coldly. "I won't believe a word of human words. Moreover, since you dare to trespass into the temple of the snake people, be prepared to die." As soon as the voice fell, Queen Medusa slightly extended her right hand. The hand that looked very soft actually launched an extremely terrifying attack. Boom! There was a burst of sound in the air. Xiao Fan said, "Since you can't talk properly, I have to beat you first." As soon as the voice fell, Xiao Fan slightly opened his right hand and performed the Thunder Emperor Palm. An illusory giant palm condensed by fighting spirits suddenly appeared above the temple. Purple lightning arcs flashed continuously on the giant palm, full of dangerous aura. Boom! As Xiao Fan pressed his right hand slightly downward, the giant thunder palm also suddenly pressed down hard towards Medusa. Bang! A dull sound rang out, and Queen Medusa's body was directly slapped to the ground by the giant thunder palm. Puff! Queen Medusa suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, her face pale. This was because Xiao Fan showed mercy, otherwise, Queen Medusa would have died under Xiao Fan's palm. "Can we talk now?" Xiao Fan shrugged, ignoring Queen Medusa's angry eyes, and walked towards her. Bang! Before Xiao Fan could reach Queen Medusa, a burst of sound suddenly came from Queen Medusa. In an instant, her clothes, which were already a little torn, all shattered and turned into powder and flew away. Xiao Fan only had time to appreciate the beautiful scenery, and then he saw Queen Medusa suddenly turned into a purple snake full of fierce breath. Swoosh! Queen Medusa, who turned into a purple snake, did not attack Xiao Fan, but flashed in an instant and jumped into the backyard of the temple. Xiao Fan followed closely, but saw that in the backyard, there was a misty ice spirit cold spring. A cluster of blazing green flames was trapped in the ice spirit cold spring. It was like a living thing, changing into a lotus shape for a while, and then into a small flame snake. This flame was the Azure Lotus Earth Core Fire, which ranked 19th on the list of strange fires. The Azure Lotus Earth Core Fire kept colliding with the transparent energy shield around it, but failed to escape successfully. The purple snake transformed by Queen Medusa was staying not far from the azure lotus earth core fire at this moment. With hesitation in her eyes, Xiao Fan withdrew his gaze from the azure lotus earth core fire and said to Queen Medusa, "Queen Medusa, give me this azure lotus earth core fire, and I will help you break through the Zong level and let your bloodline evolve and upgrade. How about it?" Bang! Queen Medusa, who was still a little hesitant, heard Xiao Fan's words, and a resolute look flashed in her eyes. She suddenly broke through the energy shield and directly activated the secret method, intending to use the azure lotus earth core fire to evolve. Boom! In a flash, Queen Medusa's huge snake body was engulfed by the terrifying flames of the blue lotus earth core fire. Soon, Queen Medusa's somewhat shrill scream suddenly rang out, making people's scalps numb. Suddenly, countless snake people and the entire snake tribe heard Queen Medusa's screams, especially the elders of the snake tribe. Their faces changed drastically, and they flew to the roofs of various places and looked in the direction of the temple, but all they could see was the blazing flames. Did Her Majesty choose that path after all? Several elders of the snake tribe sighed and flew quickly towards the temple, ready to protect Queen Medusa. Fuck, so cruel. At this moment, in the backyard of the snake temple, Xiao Fan couldn't help but burst out with swear words when he saw Medusa's sudden action. This Queen Medusa is too crazy. Even Queen Medusa, who was in her peak state, almost failed to evolve using the blue lotus earth core fire. Queen Medusa now has only a 10% chance of evolving successfully. Xiao Fan frowned as he looked at Medusa's miserable appearance, thinking about how to help her. After all, Xiao Fan came here to conquer Queen Medusa, not to take her life. At this moment, Xiao Fan sensed several strong auras approaching this place quickly. Xiao Fan knew that those people must be the elders of the snake people. For the sake of Queen Medusa, Xiao Fan did not intend to kill them, but he could not stay here. After a slight hesitation, Xiao Fan's mind moved slightly, and he directly put Queen Medusa and the green lotus earth core fire into the source tower. Then, he directly shuttled through space and returned to Shimo City. After returning to the room in Shimo City, Xiao Fan did not alarm others, kicked the purple crystal-winged Lion King out, and then looked at Queen Medusa, who was burned by the strange fire again. I can only try this method. Xiao Fan pondered for a while, and suddenly thought of a way to save Medusa. He did it as soon as he thought of it. Xiao Fan opened his right palm slightly, and the terrifying swallowing vortex appeared in his palm again. Suddenly, a terrifying swallowing force went towards the azure lotus earth core fire. As a strange fire, the azure lotus earth core fire has a certain spirituality. Sensing the terrifying swallowing force, it had to transfer its consciousness from Queen Medusa and began to fight against the terrifying swallowing force. However, its struggle was in vain. After a while, the azure lotus earth core fire was absorbed in front of Xiao Fan's palm, and it was about to be swallowed by the vortex. Queen Medusa was also absorbed by the swallowing force. Xiao Fan gently waved his left hand, shaking Queen Medusa's body away, and looked at the azure lotus earth core fire in front of him, slightly hesitant. Xiao Fan was a little hesitant, whether to swallow the azure lotus earth core fire directly or leave it to Xiao Yan. Chapter 80, Dealing with the Strange Fire. The Battle in the Warcraft Mountains. Xiao Fan hesitated for a moment, but finally decided to leave the azure lotus earth core fire to Xiao Yan. After all, he had already told Xiao Yan about this matter before, and it would be inappropriate to break his promise to his brother. Moreover, this azure lotus earth core fire was not as helpful to him as he had imagined. In order to prevent the azure lotus earth core fire from continuing to hurt Queen Medusa, Xiao Fan used his fighting spirit to form a shield to cover the azure lotus earth core fire, and then walked to Queen Medusa. Queen Medusa, who was already seriously injured, was burned by the azure lotus earth core fire for a while, and now looked even more miserable. The huge purple snake body was covered with burn marks, and even had a burnt smell. Seeing Xiao Fan walking towards her, Queen Medusa couldn't help but reveal despair in her eyes. Queen Medusa never had any trust in humans. In her opinion, the deal proposed by Xiao Fan must be fake, in order to cheat away the azure lotus earth core fire. That's why she rushed into the azure lotus earth core fire regardless of everything. wanting to survive and use the Azure Lotus Earth Core Fire to complete her evolution. However, Queen Medusa didn't expect that Xiao Fan would interrupt her evolution and take away the Azure Lotus Earth Core Fire. Since Xiao Fan has obtained the Azure Lotus Earth Core Fire, the next step is naturally to take her life. Xiao Fan looked at Queen Medusa's eyes and said unhappily, "You are really a crazy woman. Don't you want to die? In your current state, it is impossible to use the alien fire to evolve successfully. If you are not careful, you will only become a pile of roasted snake meat in the end. Don't you want me to fail in evolution? Now I am powerless to resist. If you want to kill me, just kill me. Why pretend?" Queen Medusa heard the words and a cold voice came from the huge snake head. Xiao Fan shrugged. "I really intend to trade with you. Why don't you believe me? I never thought of taking your life. Here are a few healing herbs. Take them first, and you should be able to recover a little." Xiao Fan took out a few high-grade healing herbs from the ring and threw them directly to Queen Medusa. Queen Medusa looked at Xiao Fan with some suspicion, not believing in Xiao Fan's kindness. "It's up to you whether to use these herbs or not. I have something to do, so I'll leave first." Seeing this, Xiao Fan said lightly, and left the Yuanqi Tower with a slight movement of his mind. Queen Medusa watched Xiao Fan leave, with some doubts flashing in her eyes, and she was also a little hesitant in her heart. Could it be that what this human said was true? After carefully sensing it, there was no sign that the healing herbs had been tampered with. Medusa hesitated for a moment, and the snake tongue spit out and rolled lightly, directly rolling the herbs into her mouth. On the other side, after Xiao Fan left the Source Energy Tower, he opened the door and walked out, ready to let Xiao Yan start refining the Azure Lotus Earth Core Fire. Third young master, when did you come back? As soon as Xiao Fan walked out of the yard, King Lin immediately came up to him with a happy face. King Lin is now Fan's maid, and she stayed near Xiao Fan's room. As soon as Xiao Fan came out, she saw him, but what made King Lin a little strange was that she didn't see Xiao Fan coming back from outside. Xiao Fan smiled and said, "I just came back too. By the way, did you know that Xiao Yan is back?" King Lin shook her head and said, "Before, I returned with the two captains, but young Master Xiao Yan went to the depths of the desert alone." Xiao Fan understood that King Lin was talking about the time when Xiao Yan went to chase him. Xiao Fan said, "Okay, I know. You can go out for a walk when you are free. You don't have to stay in the house all the time." "Yeah," King Lin nodded and responded. However, without Xiao Fan's company, she didn't dare to go out and wander around casually. Xiao Fan and King Lin chatted casually for a few words, and then went out to look for Xiao Yan. Xiao Fan did not sense Xiao Yan's breath in the Desert Iron Mercenary group, so he walked directly into the air and flew into the desert. Only then did he find Xiao Yan's figure. "Third brother, you are back." Xiao Yan was immediately delighted when he saw Xiao Fan coming. Xiao Fan said unhappily, "Didn't I ask you to go back to the mercenary group and wait for me first? Why are you still wandering in the desert?" "Ahem. The teacher said that I just took advantage of the desert environment to train myself," Xiao Yan said, touching his nose after hearing this. As for their trip to the magma world to pick up leaks, they did not mention it. Before, Yao Chen controlled Xiao Yan's body, so the speed was faster. Now Yan is rushing back by himself, and he is practicing while rushing, so the speed is naturally very slow. Xiao Fan said, "Have you prepared everything needed to refine the Azure Lotus Earth Core Fire?" Xiao Yan's eyes immediately showed anticipation when he heard this. "I'm ready." "Have you already taken the Azure Lotus Earth Core Fire?" "Yes." "Let's go. I'll take you back. Prepare a little, and then you can refine the Azure Lotus Earth Core Fire." Xiao Fan nodded slightly, and then took Xiao Fan in one hand and flew towards the Desert Iron Mercenary group. Not long after, Xiao Fan and Xiao Yan flew back to the Desert Iron Mercenary group. After returning to the mercenary group space, Xiao Fan took Xiao Yan and Yao Chen and entered the Source Energy Tower first. "Yao Chen, can you help me see what kind of elixir is better for her injury?" After entering the Source Energy Tower, Xiao Fan said directly to Yao Chen. After Yao Chen and Xiao Yan entered the Source Energy Tower, they naturally discovered the Queen Medusa who had transformed into a huge snake. Is this Queen Medusa? Xiao Yan looked at the purple snake and thought of the destination Xiao Fan had gone to before, and couldn't help but exclaimed in surprise. Xiao Fan nodded and said, "Yes, I wanted to make a deal with her, but she didn't trust me, so she took the initiative to rush into the Azure Lotus Earth Core fire, and then was burned into this state. Yao Chen looked at the purple snake for a while, and said in a deep voice, "It is best to let it recover its human form, so that the effect of the elixir can be better absorbed." Queen Medusa naturally also saw Xiao Yan and Yao Chen. According to the conversation between the two parties, it seems that the other party is undoubtedly a pharmacist. She didn't expect that Xiao Fan would find a pharmacist for her and prepare healing elixirs for her. Xiao Fan heard what Yao Chen said and looked at Medusa. "You heard it too. Can you recover your human form now?" Medusa said, "I need to recover a little first." Xiao Fan shrugged. "Then there is no way. You can only be in pain for a few more days. Who made you so impulsive?" Medusa glared at Xiao Fan and said nothing more. "Let's go. Let's find a place for Yanzi to refine the Azure Lotus Earth Core fire." Xiao Fan ignored Medusa and turned to Xiao Yan and Yao Chen. Yao Chen suggested, "Why not do it here?" Xiao Fan glanced at Medusa next to him, thought for a while and said, "That's fine, but we have to send Medusa out first." Soon, Xiao Fan made a decision, which was to go to the Magic Beast mountain range. After all, Queen Medusa in the form of a purple long snake was not suitable to appear in Shimo City. Xiao Fan told Zhao Ting, Zhao Li and King Lin, and then took Yan and Medusa to the Magic Beast mountain range. After arriving at the Magic Beast mountain range, Xiao Fan said to Yan, "Give me some of the healing pills you have, and then you can refine the Azure Lotus Earth Core fire inside. As for your teacher, let him protect you on the side." "Okay." Yan had no objection to this, and directly took out a large number of healing pills from the ring and handed them all to Xiao Fan. Xiao Fan gave Yan a few more instructions, and then took Queen Medusa out of the Uonki Tower. Xiao Fan thought about it, and took Queen Medusa directly to the Purple Crystal Winged Lion King cave. He was quite satisfied with the environment of the cave. When they arrived at the Purple Crystal Winged Lion King cave, they found that it was empty. Zhao Yixian and Zhao Wu were no longer there. The Purple Crystal Winged Lion King, who was temporarily released by him, was not there either. Xiao Fan did not think much about it, and temporarily placed Queen Medusa in the cave, and took some healing pills for her. Queen Medusa took the pills Xiao Fan sent, and looked at Xiao Fan with a complicated look. Xiao Fan was a little bored, and was about to practice to kill time, when he suddenly sensed a violent battle fluctuation, and he was very familiar with the aura of one of the parties. "You stay here first. I'll be back soon." Xiao Fan casually set up a battle barrier in the Purple Crystal Winged Lion King cave, and then flew towards the direction where the battle fluctuation came from. Chapter 81 Healing Mai. When Xiao Fan arrived at the place where the battle wave came from, the battle was already over. In addition to the mess on the ground, what caught Xiao Fan's sight was the Purple Crystal Winged Lion King with faint blood stains on his body and a furious aura all over his body. What happened? Xiao Fan glanced at the Purple Crystal Winged Lion King and asked calmly. The Purple Crystal Winged Lion King was about to chase the enemy, but when he saw Xiao Fan coming, he had to stop. When he heard Xiao Fan's question, he responded in a muffled voice, "A human woman wanted my purple spirit crystal. I didn't agree, so she took it by force." Xiao Fan's heart couldn't help but move when he heard it. "Oh, she was able to hurt you. It seems that the human woman is quite powerful." The Purple Crystal Winged Lion King said, "That woman is a Duang, not much worse than me, but her injuries are much more serious than mine, and she was also sealed by me. It's not certain whether she can walk out of this Demon Beast mountain range alive." Xiao Fan nodded slightly. "You should find a place to heal first. I'll go see who that woman is. By the way, I can use your cave for the time being. You should find another place to heal first." While speaking, Xiao Fan casually threw a bottle of healing pills to the Purple Crystal Winged Lion King. "Yes, thank you, young master." The Purple Crystal Winged Lion King agreed respectfully, and then left with a few jumps. Xiao Fan flew into the air. While walking in the air, he released his soul power to sense the traces of the waterfall water around him. According to the Purple Crystal Winged Lion King, if nothing unexpected happened, the human woman must be Yun Yun, the leader of the Yunlin sect. Xiao Fan remembered that in the original work, Yun Yun fell into the water under a waterfall after being injured by the Purple Crystal Winged Lion King. Although the timeline is a bit messy now, Xiao Fan feels that his judgment should be correct. After all, because of his crossing, This world has already undergone many changes. With the powerful sensing power of Xiao Fan's heavenly soul, he soon sensed the breath of a human strong man in a water flow. Xiao Fan immediately stepped into the air towards the source of the breath. After a while, Xiao Fan saw a beautiful woman with graceful curves lying on the water flow under a waterfall. The plain long skirt on the woman's body had been wet by the water flow, and many places were looming. She closed her eyes and her face was pale. It was obvious that she was seriously injured. There is no doubt that this woman is Xiao Yan, who was injured by the purple crystal-winged Lion King and had her strength sealed. Xiao Fan subconsciously looked at Xiao Yan's curvy body for a while, then picked her up by the waist and found a cave nearby. Xiao Fan's mind moved slightly, and he took out some clothes from the ring and put them on the ground, and then placed Xiao Yan on them. Xiao Fan looked at the unconscious Xiao Yan again, and suddenly frowned slightly. There were 5 terrifying claw marks on the chest below Xiao Yan's jade neck, and blood kept oozing out of the claw marks, staining her clothes red. Although in a coma, Xiao Yan still frowned because of the pain, and a touch of pain faintly appeared on her cheeks, looking a kind of touching feeling. Xiao Fan's mind moved slightly, and he took out a dozen small jade bottles given to him by Xiao Yan from the ring, and chose a pill bottle for treating external injuries. Then, Xiao Fan leaned over, and with a little force, he tore a hole in Xiao Yan's clothes from her collar. Then, Xiao Fan took off her inner armor, revealing the injured part on her chest. Looking at the sudden bounce of white and light pink, Xiao Fan quickly recited the meditation sutra in his mind several times, cleaned her wound, and then applied the powder to Xiao Yan's wound. After applying the medicine, Xiao Fan was about to bandage Xiao Yan, but suddenly he felt a cold gaze with shame and anger, so he stopped his action. Xiao Fan raised the jade bottle in his hand and said to Xiao Yan, "Don't get me wrong. I saw that you were seriously injured and you were in a coma, so I had to apply medicine to heal your wound. Otherwise, you would lose too much blood and your life would be in danger." Xiao Yan heard what Xiao Fan said, looked at the cleaned wound on her chest and the carefully applied powder, and understood that what Xiao Fan said was true. Even so, Xiao Yan was still ashamed and angry at the fact that her upper body was exposed to a strange man without reservation. "Get out." "Okay, since you're awake, you can handle it yourself next." Xiao Fan agreed without hesitation and turned to go out of the cave. When he turned around, he subconsciously glanced at that. When Xiao Fan left the cave, Xiao Yan relaxed a little and felt the pain from the wound again. Xiao Yan endured the pain and wanted to tear off the cloth on her clothes to bandage the wound, but she found that she was weak and couldn't move at all. After struggling for a while, it didn't work except to make the wound bleed again and increase the pain. Xiao Yan had to give up struggling, clenched her silver teeth, and cursed, "Damn guy, I was actually sealed by it." Xiao Yan felt helpless. If she wanted to remove the seal in her body, it would probably take several days. She couldn't just lie there in such an exposed posture. Xiao Yan's eyes changed for a while. After a long time, she took a deep breath and pretended to be calm and said, "Please come in and bandage me." Xiao Fan, who was at the entrance of the cave, heard Xiao Yan's voice and pretended to be reserved and said, "You asked me to help you. We agreed in advance that after your injury is healed, you can't do anything like digging out your eyes, cutting your tongue or cutting off your hands." Hearing Xiao Fan's words, Xiao Yan couldn't help but laugh and cry. Was she such an unreasonable person? Taking a deep breath, Xiao Yan said, "Don't worry, as long as you take care of your hands and mouth, I won't do anything to repay kindness with hatred." Xiao Fan heard Xiao Yan say this, and then he slowly stepped back into the cave and walked to Xiao Yan's side. "I'm sorry," Xiao Fan said to Xiao Yan, and then took out a clean piece of clothing from the ring, tore off one of the pieces as gauze, and bandaged Xiao Yan's wound. After all, he was not like Yan in the original work, who had so many things prepared with him. Xiao Fan did not delay intentionally or take advantage of the situation, but during the bandaging process, there were always some inevitable touches, and Xiao Yan's face could not help but reveal a faint red. Not long after, Xiao Fan bandaged Xiao Yan's wound, and then covered Xiao Yan with a clean robe to block the spring scenery in the cave. Xiao Yan looked at Xiao Fan and felt relieved that he did not overstep the mark. At the same time, she also had a faint liking for Xiao Fan. She smiled and said gratefully, "Thank you." That smile was extremely charming. Xiao Fan smiled and said, It's just a small favor. By the way, I don't know your name yet. How did you get so badly injured? Yan hesitated slightly, and used a pseudonym as in the original book. After a pause, she asked with a smile, "What about you? What's your name?" If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 82, Living Together in the Cave. The provocation of the new member. Xiao Fan's mind turned slightly, and he made up a random name. Doupo Fan. My father hopes that I will be outstanding. Xiao Fan was not sure whether Yan knew him, so he made up a name. Yan's main concern for the Xiao family was Xiao Yan. After all, Yanran came to the Xiao family to break off the engagement and then made a 3-year agreement, which had a lot to do with her. Yan came to find the purple spirit crystal this time to refine a pill for Yanran to improve her strength. Therefore, when she heard the name Doupo Fan, Yan didn't think much about it, and smiled and said, "Good name." Xiao Fan did not continue this topic, looked at Yan, and then said, "You seem to be sealed." "I haven't studied the seal much, I'm afraid I can't help you. You can only rely on yourself to recover." Xiao Fan didn't lie, and at the same time he decided in his heart that he would study the seal when he had time. The purple crystal winged Lion King and Queen Medusa, who he is now in contact with, both have the seal technique, and he may encounter other opponents who can use the seal technique in the future. Sealing is a method that is sometimes troublesome. Xiao Fan doesn't want his strength to be sealed one day and end up like Yan. By then, no one may come to rescue him. Yan said, "You have helped me a lot. I will slowly remove the seal myself, but during this period, I may need to trouble you to guard the cave entrance for me." "No problem." Xiao Fan nodded slightly, and had no opinion on this. Yan thanked Xiao Fan again, and then began to try to mobilize her fighting spirit to impact the seal. Xiao Fan had nothing to do, so he was ready to practice casually for a while. At this moment, the chat group's prompt sound suddenly rang in Xiao Fan's mind. Ding. How long you've joined the chat group? Ding. Northern Emperor Wang Teng joined the chat group. There are new people in the group. It seems that there is no need to practice hard. After receiving the chat group's prompt, Xiao Fan smiled immediately. Since you can cheat, why bother practicing? Thinking in his heart, Xiao Fan sank his consciousness into the chat group of all worlds. Chat interface. Xiao Fan, at Little Dragon Girl, at Wang Teng, welcome newcomers to the group. Xiaoxiao, at Little Dragon Girl, at Wang Teng. Huh? Northern Emperor Wang Teng, my son Wang Teng has the appearance of a great emperor? Surprised. Huang Rong, welcome newcomers, at Xiaoxiao. Do you know the origin of the newcomers? Also, do you have a son named Wang Teng? Naughty. Yan Lingjai, welcome newcomers. Little Dragon Girl, is she the legendary dragon? Surprised. Wan, welcome newcomers to the group. Zhu Yuanzhang, another newcomer? Recently, 2 people have joined the group at a time. Is it because the chat group activity has increased? Yi Wen, maybe. Lord Thunder Emperor and Ms. Su may know this. Xiaoxiao, it should be. At Huang Rong, you have a son named Wang Teng. Where did my child come from? Don't talk nonsense. Knock. The world of the great ruler, Beiyu and Wang's mansion. Wang Teng sensed the information in his mind. His face changed, and he said coldly, "Who is playing tricks?" In the world of the heaven shaking, there is no concept of chat groups. However, Wang Teng checked carefully, and there was no strange breath around, and no strange souls appeared in his mind. This made Wang Teng frown, and he really couldn't understand what was going on. When Wang Teng saw the message of Huang Rong and Su Xiaoxiao in the chat group, his face was immediately full of anger. "Wang Teng, who are you, playing tricks here?" And Huang Rong and Su Xiaoxiao, you dare to humiliate this emperor? Are you looking for death? Now Wang Teng, of course, has not become a great emperor. However, Wang Teng has encountered many adventures since he was born. He is known as the reincarnation of the ancient emperor. He has great luck and has been praised by countless people. Gradually, he has developed an arrogant character, and often regards himself as a young emperor. Buo World, God Realm Committee. Qian Renxu just noticed the message of the chat group, and looked at Wang Teng's speech and couldn't help but frown slightly. Qian Renxu, at Xiaoxiao, do you know who this Northern Emperor Wang Teng is? How dare he imitate the title of Lord Thunder Emperor? Huang Rong, at Xiaoxiao, I am also a little curious, could he really be some kind of great emperor? Curious, Yan Lingjai, what great emperor? He is definitely not as powerful as my brother Xiao Fan, son dear, Wan. I also think that Lord Thunder Emperor is the strongest. Worship, Xiaoxiao, Wang Teng is not a great emperor, but his cultivation is also very strong. As for who is stronger between him and Lord Thunder Emperor, it is really hard to say at the moment. Conflicted, after reading Xiaoxiao's explanation, the other people in the group were also greatly shocked. They have all seen Xiao Fan's strength. Unexpectedly, this new member is comparable to Xiao Fan in strength, and everyone is greatly shocked. Xiao Fan is also stroking his chin at this moment, looking at the messages in the chat group. To be honest, he doesn't know what level he is in the world of covering the sky with his cultivation at the peak of the 9-star zone. But if you want to run rampant in the world of Zushin, this strength is definitely not enough. Xiao Fan was a little hesitant. It seems that if you want to sign into the world of Zushin, you still need to wait a while, and you must be steady. Xiaoxiao, at Zilongnu, at Wang Teng, let me introduce you to the functions of the chat group. Xiaoxiao, the functions of the 10,000 Worlds chat group are. With Xiaoxiao's introduction, Wang Teng quickly got a general understanding of the chat group, and realized that this was not a trick used by someone in secret. After understanding the functions of the chat group, Wang Teng's eyes flickered for a while, and suddenly challenged Xiao Fan. Wang Teng, at Xiao Fan, since you dare to call yourself the Thunder Emperor, you must have some strength. According to what other people in the group said, your strength seems to be good. Do you have the courage to come to our world and compete with me? Yan Lingjai, at Wang Teng, you dare to provoke brother Xiao Fan, how abominable. Angry, Xiaoxiao, Mr. Xiao, don't be impulsive. The world of Zacian where Wang Teng is too dangerous. With Wang Teng's strength, he can't even be ranked in the world of Zacian. Even if you can defeat Wang Teng, it will be troublesome if you encounter other old monsters. Huang Rong, Miss Su, is the world of Zacian the world where Wang Teng is? What is it like? Curious, Xiaoxiao, yes, the world where Wang Teng is called the world of Zacian. In the world of Zacian, immediately, Xiaoxiao introduced the general situation of the world of Zacian to everyone. After listening to Xiaoxiao's introduction, everyone was also terrified. Such a world is really too dangerous. Then, everyone sent messages to persuade Xiao Fan. Everyone in the chat group has received help from Xiao Fan and gets along well with Xiao Fan. In contrast, Wang Teng is a newcomer who has just joined the group, and he has a condescending attitude as soon as he arrives. Naturally, everyone will choose to stand on Xiao Fan's side. In fact, without everyone's persuasion, Xiao Fan would not easily go to the world of Zacian to duel with Wang Teng. Xiao Fan felt that he was probably no match for Wang Teng now, and going there would only bring him trouble. Moreover, even if he could defeat Wang Teng, there were so many old monsters in that world that he might die there. With Xiao Fan's cautious and steady character, it was naturally impossible for him to take risks. Unless Xiao Fan was sure of defeating Wang Teng, and he didn't have to worry about the old monsters attacking him. Thinking in his heart, Xiao Fan also sent a message in the chat group. Xiao Fan, thank you for your concern. I won't take risks in the world of covering the sky for the time being, and I have 2 wounded people to take care of here, and I don't have time. Wang Teng, Humphrey, you don't even dare to accept my challenge. What qualifications do you have to be the group leader? Why don't you transfer the position of group leader to me, and don't make any excuses? Xiao Fan, I do have to take care of the wounded here. One is Yan, and the other is Queen Medusa. Xiaoxiao should know that. As for your challenge, we can go to Xiaoxiao's world at the same time in a few days to compete. Xiaoxiao, Yan and Medusa, Master Xiao, are you trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone? Does Yan know about this? Smirk, Xiao Fan, at Xiaoxiao, stop talking nonsense. Yan was sealed by the purple crystal winged Lion King, and Medusa was nearly burned to death by the strange fire. How can a person like me who cherishes women watch them die without helping? Spreading hands. Suddenly, Xiao Fan thought of Zhao Longv, who had joined the group but hadn't spoken yet. Xiao Fan, Zhao Longv, why don't you come out and make some noise and get to know everyone? Wang Teng, Xiao Fan, don't change the subject. Since you don't dare to come to our world, then just do as you said and go to any other world. We'll have a decisive battle. But, you have to give a specific time, right? Chapter 83, Battle. Wang Teng's surprise. Xiao Fan did not respond to Wang Teng directly, but first used the group owner's authority to check Wang Teng's basic information. Group member, Wang Teng, age, 18, world, Zushan world, score, 0. After reading Wang Teng's information, Xiao Fan was no longer panicked. In the original work, Wang Teng was 25 years old when he appeared, and he was at the peak when he appeared. His cultivation reached the middle stage of the second layer of Xian Tai, and he was the first person in the young generation of Beiyuan. For a person of the Tanjia level like Wang Teng, the improvement in 7 years must be very terrifying. Wang Teng, who was 18 years old, should not have entered the Xian Tai realm. Afterwards, Xiao Fan communicated with the Wanji chat group again, and soon understood the comparison between the realm of the Dqi world and the realm of the Zushan world. Daodi corresponds to the Saint King, Daoshan corresponds to the Saint, Zunpeak corresponds to the King, and Zun corresponds to the Great Power. Xiao Fan is now at the peak of the 9th star Duzon, which is equivalent to the peak of the 9th level of the first layer of Xian Tai. But compared with the Zushan world, the practitioners of the Dqi world are too poor, and their weapons are a huge shortcoming. To be on the safe side, Xiao Fan decided to play it safe again and wait until he breaks through the Zun realm before fighting with Wang Teng. After making up his mind, Xiao Fan responded to Wang Teng's message directly in the group. Xiao Fan, at Wang Teng, 10 days later, we will go to Xiaoxiao's world to fight. 10 days. Xiao Fan felt that it was enough for him to break through to the Zun realm. After all, he had already mastered the power of space that only Zun could master. Moreover, he could also sign into Zhao Longnu's world once. After so many sign-ins, Xiao Fan has never been disappointed. When Wang Teng saw Xiao Fan's message, he looked up to Xiao Fan. It seems that this Xiao guy is not deliberately making excuses not to fight me. Wang Teng, at Xiao Fan, okay, it's settled. 10 days later, you and I will fight. Xiaoxiao, at Xiao Fan, Master Xiao, have you really decided to fight with Wang Teng? Xiaoxiao also has a lot of knowledge about the world of Zanshan, and feels that Xiao Fan may not be able to defeat Wang Teng. Xiao Fan, at Xiaoxiao, don't worry, I'm just sparring with fellow Taoist Wang Teng. Even if I fail, it's no big deal. What's more, I may not have no chance of winning. Yan Lingjai, at Xiao Fan, I believe in Brother Xiao Fan. Brother Xiao Fan, teach the newcomer a lesson. Clenched fist, Wan, come on, Lord Thunder Emperor. Soon, except for Wang Teng and Zhao Longv, everyone else expressed their support for Xiao Fan, which made Wang Teng very angry, but there was nothing he could do. After all, Wang Teng was not the group leader, and he could not enter the world of group members without the invitation of other members. The world of Condor heroes. In the Tomb sect, Zhao Longv sat quietly on the rope, looking at the information in the chat group, without expressing any opinions. Originally, Zhao Longv was also very wary of the strange voice that suddenly appeared in her mind. However, Zhao Longv was a cold woman, and did not show anything on her face. After reading Xiaoxiao's introduction to the 10,000 Worlds chat group, Zhao Longv also understood the function of this chat group. Zhao Longv naturally saw Wang Teng's provocation to Xiao Fan, but she didn't care that she was not familiar with Wang Teng and Xiao Fan. At this time, after everyone in the chat group cheered for Xiao Fan for a while, under Xiao Fan's persuasion, everyone changed the topic. After chatting casually for a few words, they suddenly thought of another new member. Yan Lingjai, at Little Dragon Girl, why don't the newcomers come out? Tell everyone quickly, are you a dragon? I haven't seen what a dragon looks like yet. Expectation. Huangrong, I am also very curious. Xiaoxiao, at Yan Lingjai, at Huangrong, you think too much. Zhao Longnu is a normal human being, Little Dragon Girl is her name, or a nickname. She is an orphan and does not have a complete name like others. Xiaoxiao, at Little Dragon Girl, have you accepted Yango as your apprentice now? In the world of the Return of the Condor Heroes, Dao Longnu looked at the messages in the chat group, and a look of doubt flashed in her eyes. After thinking for a while, Dao Longnu finally sent the first message. Dao Longnu, number. The Tomb School never accepts male disciples. Xiao Fan, as Dao Longnu, it seems that you haven't accepted Yango as your apprentice yet. According to your original life trajectory, Yango would be your apprentice and your future husband. However, the experiences between you are a bit bumpy, even sad. Xiaoxiao, there are always exceptions to everything. The things between you and Yango are a bit complicated. By the way, Huang Rong also played a big role in it. Smirk, Huang Rong, I didn't know how long knew before, and we are not from the same world. What does it have to do with me? Xiaoxiao, Yango is the son of Yang Hang and Mun Yanzi. At the beginning, soon, Xiaoxiao told Zhao Longnu and everyone about Yango's affairs and the general plot of the Return of the Condor Heroes. Huang Rong, what the hell? I will never marry that stupid Gojing. Angry. Xiao Fan, there are all kinds of heavens and worlds in the universe, and there are some parallel worlds. The world where Zhao Longnu and Rong are is a parallel world. In Zhao Longnu's world, there is also a Huang Rong. Xiaoxiao, at Huang Rong, if you had not joined the chat group, according to the original life trajectory, you would have married Gojing, and then defended Xiangyang City with Gojing, and finally the city was destroyed and people died. Although it is a pity, this spirit is admired by many people. Huang Rong, I am not that great. I will soon go to Zongtu of the Jin Kingdom. After I rob the treasury of the Jin Kingdom, I will rob the treasuries of the Song Kingdom and the Mongolian Yuan dynasty. Humphrey. Xiao Fan, at Huang Rong, in fact, you can directly replace the Song Kingdom and then unify the world you are in. It will be much easier to earn points in this way. Huang Rong, isn't this too difficult? Spreading hands. Huang Rong, at Zhao Longnu, don't be hostile to me because of Huang Rong in your world. I am innocent, helpless. Zhao Longnu, number. In the world of the Return of the Condor Heroes, Zhao Longnu was skeptical about what Xiaoxiao sent, but she suddenly remembered that not long ago, Granny Sun brought a young man to her and wanted her to take him in, but she refused. Zhao Longnu thought about it carefully. The name of that young man seemed to be Yango. Zhao Longnu was a calm person. She didn't care much about anything. She didn't care much about Yango's affairs before. She didn't expect that so many things would happen between her and Yango. But how did that girl Suzhou know about these things? After a pause, Zhao Longnu sank her consciousness into the chat group again. Zhao Longnu, at Suzhou, how did Ms. Su know about me? Suzhou, because I am a time traveler, except for Lord Thunder Emperor, I know all the situations of other people in the group. Proud. Zhao Longnu, what does time traveler mean? Wang Teng, how shameless, how can you spy on the fate of this emperor? Suzhou, at Zhao Longnu, time traveler means. Suzhou, at Wang Teng, I'm sorry, I really know your fate. Your father is Wang Chengkun, and you have a younger brother named Wang Chong. Your father's catchphrase to outsiders is my son Wang Teng has the potential to be an emperor. When you were less than 2 years old, your final fate was very miserable. Do you want to know the details? Swish. In the world of Shrouding Heaven, the Beiyu and Wang family, Wang Teng looked at the message sent by Xiaoxiao, and his face suddenly changed. Originally, Wang Teng sneered at Xiaoxiao's words, but Xiaoxiao's narration of his experience was almost completely consistent. This made Wang Teng have to believe what Xiaoxiao said, and Xiaoxiao's last sentence made Wang Teng's face very ugly. Will his end be miserable? Taking a deep breath, Wang Teng sent another message. Wang Teng, at Xiaoxiao, you said that this emperor will have a miserable end. Who can threaten this emperor? Xiaoxiao, it's very tiring to spy on the secrets of heaven. Holding his chin, Wang Teng, at Xiaoxiao, make your conditions. Chapter 84, The Envy of Group Members and Xiao Fan's Pressure. In the world of Demon Resurrection, Xiaoxiao looked at Wang Teng, who was in a high-handed attitude, and couldn't help but frown, thinking about how to cheat him. However, Xiaoxiao suddenly thought of Xiao Fan and decided to ask Xiao Fan's opinion. Xiaoxiao, as Xiao Fan, Lord Thunder Emperor, should I tell Wang Teng about his detailed fate? Xiao Fan, of course, as long as both parties have no objection, you can make any transaction. However, since everyone can join this chat group, their fate may have changed, so there is no need to be too obsessed with the original fate trajectory. Seeing that Xiao Fan had no objection, Xiaoxiao immediately responded to Wang Teng. Xiaoxiao, at Wang Teng, I helped Miss Wan Wan to point out the location of a treasure, and Miss Wan Wan gave me tens of thousands of points. Now about your fate, you give me 500,000 points, isn't it too much? Wang Teng, I don't have any points. Xiaoxiao, this is not simple, you just upload some skills, holy weapons, etc. Don't you have points? The world of the heaven covering, the Beiyu and Wang family. Wang Teng looked at Xiaoxiao's message, and recalled the chat group function that Xiaoxiao had introduced before. With a thought, he uploaded the 3 offensive secrets of Chaos Heaven Sacred Art, Chaos Ancient Secret Art, and Kill Me Ming Dao Ju to the chat group wall. As for the fundamental technique he practiced, Chaos Ancient Scripture, it was not uploaded. Group member Wang Teng uploaded Chaos Heaven Sacred Art and received 9 million points. Group member Wang Teng uploaded Chaos Ancient Secret Art and received 9 million points. Group member Wang Teng uploaded Kill Me Ming Dao Ju and received 9 million points. After receiving the chat group's prompt, everyone in the chat group was immediately excited. Zhu Yuanzhang, hiss, 27 million points were obtained in a blink of an eye. This is too amazing. Yan Lingjai, what's going on? How come this guy named Wang Teng uploaded a technique that is so much more expensive than the one uploaded by brother Xiao Fan? Suspicion, Yi Wen, it really deserves to be the technique of that terrifying fantasy world. Any one of them is worth a height that I can't imagine. Qian Renxu, is this Northern Emperor really that powerful? The value of this technique is too outrageous. Xiaoxiao, I feel like the points will be less. Regret. Everyone was shocked by the value of the techniques uploaded by Wang Teng. After being shocked, Yan Lingjai and Xiaoxiao couldn't help but worry about Xiao Fan. Xiao Fan couldn't help but be amazed when he saw Wang Teng casually upload a secret technique of attack and defeat, and directly broke his own record of uploading techniques. Good guy, it's worthy of being the world of covering the sky. It's awesome. This is just the technique of attack and defeat. If Wang Teng uploaded the ancient chaos scripture, how many points would he earn? You know, the ancient chaos scripture is one of the emperor scriptures of the covering the sky world, and it is an unparalleled technique that can be cultivated to the realm of the great emperor. Xiao Fan was originally quite satisfied with his current achievements, but now it seems that he is still far from it. Wang Teng's joining the group has brought him new pressure. Wang Teng looked at the exclamations of everyone in the chat group, and his mood suddenly improved a lot. Wang Teng, at Xiaoxiao, tell me in detail what my original destiny was like. I will give you 500,000 points first, and after you finish explaining, I will give you another 500,000 points. Xiaoxiao's exclusive red envelope. Xiaoxiao received Wang Teng's red envelope and received 500,000 points. Xiaoxiao, at Wang Teng, thank you, I will tell you one by one. Wang Teng was so generous, Xiaoxiao did not shirk or cover up, and quickly described Wang Teng's original fate in detail. The world of the heaven-shaking, Beiyuan Palace. After Wang Teng read the content sent by Xiaoxiao, his eyes flickered. Wang Teng was less than 2 years old when he began to have opportunities one after another, and he also received the inheritance of the ancient emperor, which made Wang Teng full of confidence in his future as an emperor. Therefore, Wang Teng took it for granted that his father and countless people in Beiyuan flattered him, and regarded himself as a young emperor. He never thought that he would end up like that, not to mention becoming a great emperor. He hasn't even reached the level of a great saint. Damn it! Wang Teng's anger surged in his heart, and his violent breath suddenly burst out. With a loud boom, the house he lived in was directly shattered. After a while, Wang Teng calmed down and immersed his consciousness in the chat group again. Wang Teng, at Xiaoxiao, this emperor keeps his word. Xiaoxiao's exclusive red envelope. Xiaoxiao received Wang Teng's red envelope and received 500,000 points. Xiaoxiao, at Wang Teng, thank you, Mr. Wang. Thanks. Although Xiaoxiao doesn't like Wang Teng's personality very much, it doesn't hurt to thank him for the benefit of receiving 1 million points. Wang Teng, this emperor has something to do, so I'm leaving. After sending the message, Wang Teng directly exited the chat interface. Wang Teng glanced at his points information and directly chose to use points to improve his cultivation. You use 10 million points to improve your cultivation to the first level of Xiantai. You use 10 million points to improve your cultivation to the second level of Xiantai. Insufficient points. Xiao Fan's judgment was correct. When Wang Teng joined the chat group, his cultivation was just stuck at the peak of the Dragon Transformation Secret Realm, one step away from the immortal stage. Now, after using the points, Wang Teng's cultivation quickly reached the level of the second level of the first level of the immortal stage. This chat group is indeed useful. It seems that the family can prepare more resources. Wang Teng's eyes flashed, and he thought secretly in his heart. After Wang Teng left the chat group, Xiao Fan felt full of pressure in his heart. He chatted with everyone in the group for a few words and then left the chat group interface. Xiao Fan has decided to sign into the Condor Heroes world tonight. However, in addition to signing in to improve his cultivation, he feels that he should work harder. This time, only Wang Teng, who has not yet fully developed, came, and he was almost unable to cope with it. If a stronger member joins in the future, it will be a mess. What are you thinking about? Thinking so deeply? At this time, a cold and pleasant voice suddenly came to Xiao Fan's ears. But Yun Yun stopped attacking the seal at some point. Hearing Yun Yun's words, Xiao Fan withdrew his thoughts and shook his head, saying, "Nothing, I just have an appointment with someone, and I'm thinking about how to improve myself as soon as possible." Yun Yun apologized and said, "I delayed your practice. If you are in a hurry, why don't you leave first?" Xiao Fan smiled and said, "If I leave, you, a beautiful woman like a flower, will become food for the monsters. They don't know how to be gentle with women." Yun Yun's face flushed slightly when she heard this, and she didn't know how to respond. Xiao Fan looked at Yun Yun's appearance and found it a little funny. "It's just a joke. Don't worry, I won't leave for the time being, and I can practice here, right?" Yun Yun said. "Is your opponent strong?" Xiao Fan stretched out his hand and stroked his chin, and pondered. "It should be very strong, probably around the Zong realm." "Zong!" Yun Yun exclaimed when she heard Xiao Fan's words. "In the huge Jiama Empire, there is not even a Zong." After a pause, Yun Yun rolled her eyes at Xiao Fan. "Are you kidding me again? You look young. How could you possibly fight a Zong master?" Xiao Fan smiled and said nothing more. He just said this on purpose to give Yun Yun a heads up in advance, so that it would not be awkward when they officially met in the future. Of course, Xiao Fan also understood that Yun Yun certainly did not believe that he could fight a Zong master now. This was exactly the effect he wanted. Afterwards, Yun Yun took the initiative to change the topic, chatted with Xiao Fan casually for a few words, and then continued to attack the seal. Xiao Fan silently stayed beside Yun Yun, practicing the Thunder Emperor technique. Unfortunately, the progress was too slow. At night, after Yun Yun fell asleep, Xiao Fan's mind moved slightly, and his consciousness sank into the chat group again. "Xiao Fan, at Little Dragon Girl, I'm going to go to your world later to take a look. Don't change your clothes or something." Little Dragon Girl, according to the rules of the Tomb Clan, men are not allowed to enter the tomb. Xiao Fan, then go outside the tomb first. Xiao Longnu, okay. After a while, Xiao Longnu sent another message, indicating that Xiao Fan could go. Xiao Fan did not hesitate at all, and went to the world of Condor Heroes directly through the shuttle function of the chat group. System, sign in. As soon as he arrived in the world of Condor Heroes, Xiao Fan directly gave the system a sign-in command in his heart. Note: offensive techniques are similar to more advanced fighting techniques, and techniques that improve cultivation, such as the Emperor Sutra, are similar to more advanced fighting techniques. In principle, fighting techniques of the same level are more valuable than fighting techniques, and techniques that improve cultivation, such as the Emperor Sutra, are more valuable than offensive techniques of the same level. Finally, please recommend, please vote, Please vote monthly, please give 5-star praise, please subscribe, please give various data support. Thank you. Chapter 85 New Rewards, Zilong News Surprise. Ding. Sign in successful. Congratulations to the host, you have obtained a Zun pill. Note, after taking it, you can upgrade your Zun realm by 1 to 2 stars. Xiao Fan had just given the system an order, and the system's response sounded in his mind. Hearing the content of the system reward, Xiao Fan was also quite happy. This pill came just in time. There are still 10 days before the battle with Wang Teng, and Xiao Fan is not particularly eager to take this pill. After a while, Xiao Fan withdrew his mind from the system and looked at Xiao Longnu, who was standing not far from him. Seeing that her face was pale and sick, although the candlelight was like a rosy cloud, there was still no blood on her face, which made her look more elegant and beautiful. People often describe the beauty of women with the 4 words beautiful as a fairy, but no one knows how beautiful a fairy is. However, Xiao Fan feels that these 4 words are the most appropriate to describe Xiao Longnu. Xiao Longnu's body was covered with a layer of light smoke and mist, which seemed real and illusory, but she was not from this world. Xiao Longnu was originally cold and indifferent. When she saw Xiao Fan coming, she did not say anything and just waited quietly on the side. Seeing Xiao Fan looking at her, Xiao Longnu also looked at Xiao Fan without showing any weakness. The two looked at each other silently for a while, and Xiao Fan retracted his gaze and smiled. You are Miss Xiao Longnu. I didn't expect you to be so stunningly beautiful. Xiao Longnu said lightly. Oh, you are Mr. Xiao. If you want to see our world, you can only go by yourself. I can't leave the tomb sect. Xiao Fan pretended not to know. Why can't I leave the tomb sect? Xiao Longnu said. This is the rule of the tomb sect. One of the rules of the tomb sect is that women must have their palace sands touched and swear not to leave the ancient tomb for the rest of their lives. If there is a man who does not know this rule and is willing to die for it, he can break the oath and go down the mountain. There are also strange rules such as spitting on Wang Chongyang's portrait when entering the door, and men are not allowed to enter the ancient tomb. Xiao Fan was speechless when he thought of the rules set by Lin Qing. Okay, then I'll just take a casual stroll and then return. Xiao Fan didn't force anything. Miss Long, I finally found you. Xiao Fan was about to leave when he heard a somewhat old and weak voice. Soon, an ugly old woman appeared in front of him and Xiao Longnu, holding a young man with a bruised face and scars all over his body. Xiao Fan took a casual look and guessed that the two people must be Granny Sun and Yango. Granny Sun looked very miserable at this time, and it was obvious that her injuries were not light. Seeing Xiao Fan on the side of Xiao Longnu, Granny Sun's face changed slightly. Miss Long, who is he? Xiao Longnu said lightly, his name is Xiao Fan. He is from another world. What do you want to talk to me about? Xiao Longnu was innocent and said whatever she wanted, without feeling that there was anything wrong with her words. Granny Sun did not believe what Xiao Longnu said. Since you have already taken in a man, please take Yango in the ancient tomb as well. Even if you don't take him in as a disciple, it's good to give him a place to stay. Ahem. Granny Sun put Yango on the ground, coughing, and blood flowed from the corner of her mouth. Xiao Longnu said calmly, he doesn't need me to take him in, and he will leave our world soon. Granny Sun said, no matter who he is, it doesn't matter. Girl, I have never asked you for anything in my life, and even if I asked you, you would never agree. I am about to die now, and this is the first and last time I ask you for something. Upon hearing this, Yango immediately cried, Granny, don't die. I don't want you to die. Granny Sun did not answer Yango, but looked at Xiao Longnu steadily. Xiao Longnu frowned and said, what do you want to ask me now? Xiao Fan, who was standing by, saw this scene and couldn't help but raise his eyebrows slightly. After Granny Sun finished speaking, Xiao Longnu agreed to take in Yango for Granny Sun's sake. Wouldn't this be like going down the same path as in the original novel? Thinking in his heart, Xiao Fan stepped forward and said, Granny, although your injuries are serious, they are not beyond treatment. If you have anything to say, wait until I heal your injuries. When Yango heard what Xiao Fan said, he immediately knelt down in front of Xiao Fan with a thump. Hero, please save Granny. As long as you save Granny, I will do anything you ask me to do. Little brother, there is no need to do this. Xiao Fan smiled and helped Yango up. then took out a healing pill refined by Xiao Yan and handed it to Yango. "Feed the pill to this granny." "Thank you, hero." Yango thanked him, took the pill, and was about to feed it to Granny Sunday. When Granny Sun saw Yango's action, she showed an ugly smile on her face. "Silly boy, don't waste your energy. Let Granny finish what she is saying." "Granny, you take the medicine first," Yango insisted, unwilling to give up the last hope. Seeing Yango's persistence, Granny Sun was both helpless and relieved, so she had to open her mouth and swallow the pill. What Granny Sun didn't expect was that not long after she took the pill, her body injuries began to improve at a speed visible to the naked eye. Xiao Fan said, "Let me lend a hand." As he said that, Xiao Fan stepped forward, put his arm around Granny Sun's shoulder, and used his fighting spirit to help Granny Sun catalyze the power of the pill. A quarter of an hour later, Granny Sun's internal injuries had healed, but her external injuries did not heal so quickly. "Thank you for saving my life, young master." After her internal injuries healed, Granny Sun was full of energy, and immediately stood up to express her gratitude to Xiao Fan. "Thank you, hero." Yango even kowtowed to Xiao Fan to express his gratitude, his heart full of gratitude towards Xiao Fan. "It's okay, it's just a small favor." Xiao Fan smiled, not caring much, and with a wave of his hand, a gentle force lifted up the bent Grandma Sun and the kneeling Yango. The pill he had just given Grandma Sun was the lowest level healing pill in the Qi world, and it was effective for fighters and those in the Qi stage. According to the division of the martial arts world, Grandma Sun was about the second-rate to first-rate realm, not even the acquired realm. It was equivalent to the Qi stage, so this pill naturally had no problem treating her. Xiao Longnu was also very surprised when she saw this scene. In her opinion, Grandma Sun's condition just now was already hopeless, but she didn't expect Xiao Fan to cure Grandma Sun's internal injuries so quickly with just a pill. Xiao Longnu looked at Xiao Fan and asked casually, "What kind of elixir is this? It's so effective?" In the world of the Return of the Condor heroes, there are almost no elixirs. The 9 flowers jade dew pills of Peach Blossom Island are already top-level healing elixirs. Xiao Longnu is quite curious about the elixir. Xiao Fan said, "In our world, this kind of elixir is very common. Don't take it to heart." Xiao Longnu nodded slightly, and didn't ask about the elixir. She turned to look at Granny Sun. "Granny Sun, who hurt you?" Before Granny Sun could speak, Yango on the side immediately said, "It was the stinky Taoist priest of Quanzhen sect." Granny Sun kindly sent them the antidote, but they didn't want to believe it. After the antidote was gone, they insisted on pestering Granny Sun for the antidote. Granny Sun was injured by a bullnose named Haodatong. "There, don't let them run away. Brother Xiao's antidote hasn't been obtained yet." At this moment, a noisy voice came from not far away, and at the same time, a group of Quanzhen disciples dressed in Taoist costumes rushed to the location where Xiao Fan and his friends were. I don't remember the original work very clearly. I read it this morning and then slightly changed chapter 83. Granny Sun had taken Yango to find Xiao Longnu once before. Chapter 86. Grandma Sun's request to suppress Quanzhen with one palm. In a flash, a group of Taoist priests surrounded Xiao Fan and Xiao Longnu. "Stop!" At this moment, a scolding voice came. Then, an old Taoist priest with white beard and eyebrows and purple face appeared in front of everyone. The old Taoist priest was Haodatong, one of the 7 sons of Quanzhen. Haodatong had injured Granny Sun before, and felt guilty. He wanted to check Granny Sun's injuries and rescue her, but Granny Sun used a hidden weapon on him while he was about to rescue her, and fled with Yango. Granny Sun first stung Zhao Zijing with a poisonous bee, and then blinded Zhang Zigang's eye. Zhang Zigang and Zhao Zijing's disciples chased after the seriously injured Granny Sun and Yango, wanting to capture them and avenge Zhao Zijing and Zhang Zigang. After Haodatong knocked away Granny Sun's hidden weapon, he also chased Granny Sunday. He wanted to treat Granny Sun's injuries to avoid causing greater misunderstandings between the ancient Tomb sect and Quanzhen sect, and he also wanted to capture Yango and take him back to Chongyang Palace. Quanzhen Taoists have always attached great importance to the sect rules, and they are unwilling to let Yango leave Quanzhen sect in such an unclear way. Moreover, Yango has a close relationship with Gojing, and he does not want to be hostile to Gojing because of Yango's affairs. When Hao Datong saw that the disciples of Xiao Zhaijing and Zhang Zigang were about to attack Granny Sun and others, he hurriedly shouted to stop them, and at the same time floated in front of Xiao Fan and Zhao Longnu. I accidentally hurt Granny Sun before, and I feel very guilty. Now I see that Granny's injuries have healed, which is a blessing. Hao Datong bowed slightly to Granny Sun and said politely. Yango did not have any good feelings towards the Quanzhen Taoist priests at all. After hearing what Hao Datong said, he sneered, "It was you who deliberately hurt me, and you are still pretending here." The Quanzhen Taoist priests are really equally despicable and hypocritical. Granny Sun was convinced that Hao Datong was doing this for the antidote, so he said, "Humphrey, I was kind enough to give you the antidote before, but you didn't believe it. Instead, you wanted to kill Yango and me. Now, no matter what you say, I will never give you the antidote. You'd better get out." "How dare you, don't be rude to your uncle master." When the Quanzhen disciples heard Granny Sun's words, they were immediately furious and pointed their swords at Granny Sunday. "Shut up!" Hao Datong shouted at all the Quanzhen disciples, and then turned to Granny Sun and said gently, "The ancient tomb has a deep connection with Chongyang Palace, and there is no deep hatred between them. Please give me medicine." Hao Datong apologizes to you on behalf of Quanzhen sect for the previous matter. After that, Hao Datong bowed directly to Granny Sun with a very sincere expression. Granny Sun couldn't help but hesitate when she saw this. Although she looked ugly, she was kind-hearted and would not tolerate any hardship. Seeing Hao Datong's earnest plea, she felt that it was not good to let Xiao Zhaijing be poisoned to death. Granny Sun hesitated for a moment and asked Zhao Longnu, "Miss, what do you think?" Zhao Longnu said lightly, "If you want to give it, give it. If you don't want to give it, don't give it. Why ask me?" Zhao Longnu was a cold man and didn't bother to think about it. Xiao Fan watched this scene quietly, but he didn't intervene casually, letting Granny Sun and Zhao Longnu deal with it. In his eyes, the Quanzhen sect was insignificant. Life or death had no impact on him. After hearing what Zhao Longnu said, Granny Sun hesitated for a moment and said, "Miss, do you have any jade bee syrup?" "I just took a bottle of jade bee syrup and gave it to Yango." Zhao Longnu did not speak after hearing this. She had a bottle of jade bee syrup in her hand and threw it to Hao Datong. "Take it and use it to detoxify your disciples." "Thank you, Miss Long." Hao Datong quickly took the jade bee syrup and thanked Zhao Longnu, and then thanked Granny Sunday. Zhao Longnu ignored him, and Granny Sun snorted coldly. Hao Datong didn't care about it. He put away the jade bee syrup and then said to Zhao Longnu and Granny Sun, "Miss Long, Granny Sun, Yango is my Quanzhen sect disciple. Please give him to me and take him back to Chongyang Palace. I will be grateful." When Yango heard what Hao Datong said, he immediately shouted, "I don't want to go back to Chongyang Palace. I would rather die than go back." Granny Sun said coldly, "Yango is in your Quanzhen sect. Not only do you not teach him, but you have been bullying him. I will never let you take him away." Then, Granny Sun said to Zhao Longnu, "Miss, please accept Yango. This child is alone. If he is taken back to Chongyang Palace, I am afraid he will be bullied to death by them." Zhao Longnu said indifferently, "Since he is a disciple of Quanzhen sect, it is right for him to return to Chongyang Palace. Besides, you know the rules of the ancient tomb sect." When Granny Sun heard what Zhao Longnu said, she felt very uncomfortable and said angrily, "Okay, if you don't take the child in, I can take the child away with me. Anyway, I will never let him be handed over to Chongyang Palace." Zhao Longnu's emotions fluctuated slightly, but she finally said calmly, "It's up to you." Zhao Longnu grew up in the tomb sect since she was a child. She didn't understand the ways of the world. In addition, because of her cultivation, her personality was very cold and she only knew to abide by the rules of the sect. In addition, she learned about her original fate from Suzhou, and she was even more repulsive to take Yango in. Although Granny Sun knew that Zhao Longnu's personality was like this, she was still a little sad when she saw Zhao Longnu's attitude. She said directly to Yango, "Yango, let's go. I can still raise you to adulthood by myself." After that, Granny Sun took Yango and prepared to leave. But the disciples of Quanzhen sect blocked them and did not intend to give way. Hao Datong said again, "Granny, You should return this child to me. After all, he is still a disciple of Quanzhen sect. Yang looked at the situation and realized that with Grandma Sun's strength, she could not take him away by force. So Yang let go of Grandma Sun's hand and cried, "Granny, don't worry about me, let me go back with them." Grandma Sun said coldly, "If you want to take you away, you have to step over my body." Seeing this, Hao Datong frowned tightly, and the atmosphere in the field was a little heavy for a while. Looking at the situation in front of him, Xiao Fan couldn't help but raise his eyebrows slightly. If it continues like this, won't it return to the original track? After a little hesitation, Xiao Fan stepped forward and said, "Master, since Brother Yango is unwilling to continue to be a disciple of Quanzhen sect, why should your sect force him? Why don't we all part ways in peace, dissolve the master-disciple relationship between Yango and Zhao Zijing, and remove his identity as a Quanzhen disciple, so as not to aggravate the conflict, right?" "No." At this time, another cold voice came. As the voice fell, a Taoist priest with a long sword on his back, gray hair and beard, and a bit of evil spirit flew over from a distance. The person who came was Chuji, the strongest Qingchunzi among the 7 Quanzhen disciples. After Chuji landed, he looked at Xiao Fan and the others and said in a deep voice, "Who are you?" "Yango is a disciple of my Quanzhen sect. It is not the turn of outsiders to say how to deal with him." Chuji has an extremely hot temper, but he is not as easy to talk to as Hao Datong. Xiao Fan looked at Chuji's domineering appearance and couldn't help frowning. It seems that this young master is too gentle. After the voice fell, Xiao Fan casually waved his hand and swung a palm force through the air. Bang! The next moment, Chuji, who had just looked domineering, was slapped into the ground by Xiao Fan's palm. Puff! Chuji suddenly spit out a mouthful of blood, and his face turned pale instantly. This is still Xiao Fan showing mercy, otherwise, how could Chuji be alive at this moment? When Hao Datong and all the disciples of Quanzhen sect saw this scene, their faces suddenly changed, and their eyes were full of vigilance when they looked at Xiao Fan. However, their vigilance and alertness were a complete joke in front of Xiao Fan. After Xiao Fan slapped Chuji to the ground with one palm, he waved his hand casually, and all the people in Quanzhen sect, including Hao Datong, fell heavily to the ground like a kite with a broken string. Dot. In a flash, the night sky was filled with the shrill screams of the people of Quanzhen sect. Yango and Granny Sun were delighted to see this. Even Xia Longnu couldn't help feeling a little upset. Xiao Fan glanced at Chuji and Hao Datong indifferently. "Can we talk properly now?" Chapter 87. The special food made by Yun Yun. To be honest, Hao Datong had been negotiating in a good tone before, and Xiao Fan was a little embarrassed to take action. But Chuji was so arrogant when he came, and Xiao Fan didn't want to spoil him at all. When Xiao Fan watched The Legend of the Condor Heroes and the return of the Condor Heroes in his previous life, he didn't like Chuji very much. During the Legend of the Condor Heroes period, after Chuji found Yang Kang and his mother, he allowed them to continue living in the king's palace of the Jin dynasty, and didn't tell Yang Kang about his life experience. He didn't pay much attention to teaching him, and it seemed that he just wanted to win the bet with the 7 freaks of Jiangnan. It can be said that Chuji also played a big role in Yang Kang's life tragedy. During the return of the Condor Heroes period, Chuji served as the head of Quanzhen after Ma Yu passed away. He didn't pay much attention to the affairs of the sect, and Quanzhen was in chaos. Chuji also handled Yango's affairs in a confused manner. If it weren't for Chuji's good sense of justice, he would have just slapped him to death. Puff. Chuji was injured by Xiao Fan's palm. Looking at Xiao Fan's contemptuous eyes, he was ashamed and angry, spurted out a mouthful of blood, and fainted directly. Hao Datong endured the discomfort and said solemnly, "It was us who offended us before. Please forgive me." "I wonder how you want to deal with us?" Xiao Fan said lightly. "If I want to deal with you, do you think you can still be alive now? I have made it very clear just now. You just terminate the master-disciple relationship between Zhao Zijing and Yango, and remove Yango's identity as a Quanzhen disciple. Everyone is happy. Do you really want me to destroy the Quanzhen sect?" Shu. Hearing Xiao Fan's words, Hao Datong's face suddenly changed. Among the 7 Quanzhen disciples, Stan Qiujuan died at the hands of Wu Angfeng a few years ago. Among the remaining 6, Qiu Chuji is the strongest. Even Qiu Chuji is not Xiao Fan's opponent. If Xiao Fan really wants to destroy the Quanzhen sect, I am afraid he can really do it. Thinking in his heart, Hao Datong hurriedly said, I promise you that I will end the master-disciple relationship between Zhao Zijing and Yango, and at the same time expel Yango from Quanzhen sect. Xiao Fan casually said, if you had done this earlier, why would you have suffered this punishment? Hao Datong smiled bitterly, not knowing how to answer. Xiao Fan waved his hand, okay, you can go back. You can make your own arrangements for Yango's departure from Quanzhen sect. It's best to make it a happy ending. Of course, if you deliberately want to play tricks, this young master and Yango will accompany you. I don't know if your Quanzhen sect can bear the consequences. Hao Datong said, I will discuss this matter with the head brother, and I will definitely not do anything rash. Xiao Fan nodded slightly and said nothing more. Xiao Fan admired Ma Ju. Hao Datong apologized to Xiao Fan again, and then asked his disciples to carry Qiu Chuji and return to Chongyang Palace together. As soon as Hao Datong and the other people from Quanzhen sect left, Yango's face was immediately filled with joy, and he knelt down in front of Xiao Fan with a plop. Thank you, hero. You are so powerful. You can intimidate those big shots from Quanzhen sect with just one palm. Xiao Fan said, as long as you practice hard, it will be easy to surpass those people from Quanzhen sect. Really? Yango was overjoyed when he heard that, and then he suddenly thought of something and said to Xiao Fan, hero, please accept me as your disciple. As he said that, Yango wanted to kowtow to Xiao Fan. Xiao Fan waved his hand slightly and helped Yango up through the air, shaking his head and said, I have no plans to accept a disciple for the time being, so you don't have to worship me. Yango was rejected by Xiao Fan and felt disappointed. Hero, why are you and Miss Long unwilling to accept me as a disciple? Were you lying to me about what you said just now? Xiao Fan said casually, Ms. Long has already said that I am not from your world and will leave soon. As for why Ms. Long doesn't accept you, it's because of the rules of the ancient Tomb sect. You don't have to think too much about it. After a pause, Xiao Fan took out a secret book and threw it into Yango's arms. You and I are destined to meet. This 9 Yin scriptures is a unique skill that the 5 great masters fought for back then, so I'll give it to you. With your intelligence, you will surely be able to achieve something by practicing it on your own. It's the 9 Yin scriptures. Granny Sun was shocked when she heard the name of the 9 Yin scriptures. Yango, why don't you thank this young master quickly? Zilongnu and Yango may not know that Granny Sun is older and more experienced, but she knows the status of this magical skill in the world. Xiao Fan smiled slightly. My name is Xiao Fan. Yango said respectfully, thank you, Master Xiao. I will never forget your kindness. Yango already regarded Xiao Fan as his master. Xiao Fan shook his head. It's up to you. Finally, I remind you that before you master this technique, it's best not to let people know that you have the 9 Yin manual, otherwise I'm afraid many people will miss you. Yes, thank you for the reminder, Master Xiao, Yango said again after hearing this. Xiao Fan said, that's it, Grandma Sun, you take Yango and leave first. I have something to discuss with Miss Long. Grandma Sun glanced at Xiao Longnu after hearing this, and then took Yango away. Xiao Longnu said, what do you want to talk to me about? Xiao Fan's mind moved slightly, and he took out another secret book. This skill is called Taiyin Sutra, which is higher than Jiuyan Sutra. You can practice this skill in the future. As for the Jade Girl Heart Sutra, I advise you to practice it as little as possible. Xiao Longnu said, why can't you practice the Jade Girl Heart Sutra? Xiao Fan said, like Xiaoxiao, I am also a time traveler. I know your original destiny very well, and I am more familiar with the Jade Girl Heart Sutra. If you practice the skill, immediately, Xiao Fan gave Xiao Longnu a general introduction to the practice method of the Jade Girl Heart Sutra and the defects of this skill. After listening to it, Xiao Longnu couldn't help but fall into deep thought. Okay, there's nothing else to do, I'll take my leave first. If you have anything in the future, you can find me through the chat group. Xiao Fan smiled and said to Xiao Longnu, okay. Xiao Longnu heard this and agreed calmly. Xiao Fan didn't say much, and his figure flashed and disappeared directly from Xiao Longnu's sight. After leaving Xiao Longnu's sight, Xiao Fan did not continue to wander around the Condor world, but directly returned to the Qi world through the Wanji chat group. After returning to the Qi world, Xiao Fan saw Yan still resting, so he went to the cave where Medusa was to check the situation. Medusa was still a huge snake body, and her injuries were slowly recovering. Xiao Fan had no interest in the snake-bodied Medusa, so he returned to the cave where Yan was and closed his eyes to rest. In the next 4 or 5 days, Xiao Fan stayed in the Warcraft mountain range temporarily, taking care of Yan and Medusa while using the heaven-swallowing and earth-devouring divine power to devour Warcraft and natural treasures to improve his cultivation. It was just a pity for Xiao Fan that he had not yet broken through to the Zun realm. As for the Zun pill, he planned to take it after breaking through to the Zun realm. "You're back." In the evening of that day, Xiao Fan searched the Warcraft mountain range again for a while and returned to the cave where he lived with Yan. Xiao Fan went out every day for 5 days and came back in the evening. Yan was used to it. She waited for Xiao Fan every evening, just like a wife waiting for her husband to come back. "Well, how is it? Is your seal about to be broken?" Xiao Fan responded and asked casually. Yan nodded and said, "The seal will be broken the day after tomorrow at the latest." "That's good." Xiao Fan nodded slightly, and then said, "Wait a minute, I'll prepare the food." These days, Xiao Fan used some ingredients from the Monster Mountain range to prepare meals for the two of them. Of course, Xiao Fan would also send Medusa to her when Yan was not paying attention. Yan smiled and said, "I used the ingredients you left over from yesterday to make it. How does it taste?" Yan felt that Xiao Fan had helped her a lot, and she felt a little guilty that she had always asked Xiao Fan to cook for her. So, today, when Yan saw the leftover ingredients from yesterday, she suddenly had an idea and made a portion herself. While talking, Yan served Xiao Fan a bowl of pheasant and mushroom soup, which looked okay. After all, stewing soup does not require too much technical content, as long as all the ingredients are cooked. Of course, it is hard to say how it tastes. "Okay, I'll try it." Xiao Fan smiled when he heard it, took the pheasant and mushroom stew handed by Yan, and tasted a few mouthfuls directly. The taste can only be said to be average, and it is a little too light. However, it is better than being too salty. Thinking in his heart, Xiao Fan said, "It's well done. If you add a little more salt next time, it will be better." "Yeah, I'll remember it." Yan heard it and nodded in agreement. Then, the two of them finished the big pot of pheasant and mushroom stewed by Yan together, and each of them ate a roasted rabbit. After eating, the two sat in the cave and chatted. Suddenly, Yan's face flushed. "Doupo Fan, do you feel something is wrong?" Xiao Fan smiled bitterly. "I also feel something is not right." "Did you add anything when you were cooking?" Yan said, "It's the ones you put there." I'm so hot." As Yan spoke, she couldn't help but stretch out her hand to untie her clothes, but she was a little restrained. Most of the pill bottles that Xiao Fan took from Yan were placed in the cave. In addition, there were also some seasonings, and the two seemed to be mixed together at the moment. Xiao Fan seemed to understand something and could not help but remain silent. Not long after, Yan couldn't bear it anymore, and took the initiative to hug Xiao Fan, and seemed to chew him as if he were food. "Ahem, I don't know how to advance my relationship with Yan, so I'd better copy the potato boss." Well, I can only blame Yan for refining medicine blindly. Chapter 88, Yan's Dilemma. Unable to control her emotions, after Yan had been biting Xiao Fan for a while, she finally found the right position, kissed Xiao Fan, and took the initiative to reach out, feeling the warmth and softness in his arms. Xiao Fan didn't want to waste time, so he took the initiative to respond directly. Xiao Fan's hands kept climbing, and after a long time, he finally grabbed. Yan was attacked and suddenly woke up a little. She realized her and Xiao Fan's postures, as well as the position of Xiao Fan's hands. Yan struggled to separate from Xiao Fan's mouth, gritted her teeth, and whispered, "Doupo Fan, if you dare to do that to me, I will kill you when I recover." After saying that, Yan immediately fell into confusion again. Gradually, both of them let go of their minds and responded to each other deeply. I don't know how long it took. In a semi-dizzy and semi-awake state, Xiao Fan and Yan had a deep understanding of each other. The war in the cave lasted for a long time before it finally stopped. After everything calmed down, Xiao Fan and Yan Yan both regained their consciousness. Yan Yan never thought that she would become Xiao Fan's woman inexplicably. If her fighting spirit had not been sealed, the effect of the low-level medicine would not have had any effect on her. Because of the seal of her fighting spirit, her mind seemed to be sealed as well. She was able to relax a little and actually took the initiative to cook food. Otherwise, there would not have been any subsequent events. Yan Yan's face changed for a while. After a while, she gritted her teeth and said coldly, "Doupo Fan, I said before that when I recover, I will kill you and then commit suicide." Xiao Fan acted like a victim. "You can't blame me for this kind of thing. You are a beautiful woman who took the initiative to do that. As a normal man, how could I push you out? Besides, you put the medicine there. More importantly, if I don't rescue you, you will reach a point where you can't control yourself. If you rush out of the cave and encounter a monster like the ape, the consequences will be disastrous. Do you think it's better to be with me or with the ape? The ape is a very weird monster. As long as it is a female, anything is fine." "You bastard." Yan Yan felt sick when she heard Xiao Fan's ape. She didn't even want to think about the consequences. Compared with that, losing consciousness to Doupo Fan doesn't seem so bad. "Bah, why would I have such an idea?" Yan Yan shook her head violently, and then said coldly, "Get out." Yan Yan's clothes were torn now, so it was impossible for her to rush out of the cave exposed like this, so she could only drive Xiao Fan out. Xiao Fan said gently, "Okay, don't get excited, I'll go out." As he said that, Xiao Fan took out a set of clean clothes and put them on, then walked out of the cave. He just guarded the entrance of the cave and did not leave. Inside the cave, Yan Yan took out a set of clean clothes from the ring and put them on. She accidentally glanced at Xiao Fan's clothes on the ground and the blood-red marks. She immediately moved aside as if she was stung by a scorpion, thinking that her body, which she had preserved for so many years, was inexplicably taken away by a boy who was obviously much younger than her. Yan Yan suddenly felt crazy. Yan Yan gritted her teeth, her pretty face flickered, and she didn't know what she was thinking in her heart. At the entrance of the cave, Xiao Fan sat casually on a big rock, sensing that there was no excessive movement in the cave, and his thoughts floated. "I was originally thinking about how to develop a relationship with Yan Yan, but I didn't expect something like this to happen. It seems that I have to thank Xiao Yan." Before, Xiao Yan took out a lot of healing medicines from the ring and gave them all to Xiao Fan, but Xiao Fan didn't care much. Unexpectedly, there was also that special medicine among them. Thinking of the wonderful taste just now, Xiao Fan couldn't help but have some aftertaste. Xiao Fan was not worried that Yan Yan would really kill him, because Yan Yan now was not his opponent. Moreover, Xiao Fan felt that even if he was not Yan Yan's opponent, Yan Yan might not really kill him and then commit suicide. On the one hand, Yan Yan's character was actually a little too kind, and on the other hand, it was because of a famous saying by the female writer Zhang Niling that Xiao Fan had read in his previous life, "The Way to a Woman." Yan Yan originally had a good impression of Xiao Fan because of the past few days of getting along. After the scene just now, even if she didn't fall deeply in love with Xiao Fan, she would have a special feeling. This kind of feeling will ferment over time. Xiao Fan will add some catalysts and it will not be a problem to completely win Yan Yan. Suddenly, Xiao Fan sensed movement behind him, so he put his wild thoughts back. In Xiao Fan's perception, Yan Yan was holding a long sword and walking towards him lightly. However, he pretended not to know and continued to sit quietly, because Xiao Fan sensed that Yan Yan's killing intention was very weak, and he was sure that even if Yan Yan really tried to kill him, he could easily dodge. "What else do you want?" A moment later, Yan Yan walked behind Xiao Fan, and the long sword in her hand was placed on Xiao Fan's neck from the side, and her mouth was cold. Xiao Fan pretended to smile bitterly and said, "Do you really want to kill me? I was thinking that since this happened to us, I would be responsible for you to the end. I also wanted to wait for you to calm down, ask you about your family situation, and then let my father come to propose marriage." Yan Yan's body trembled slightly when she heard Xiao Fan's words. Get married. As the leader of the Yunlin sect, she would not get married unless something unexpected happened. Yan Yan said coldly, "I can't possibly marry you. You should tell me your last words. In fact, Yan Yan was very hesitant. She thought about killing Xiao Fan with a sword and then committing suicide. Then she thought that if she killed Xiao Fan, it would be a betrayal. Then she thought about what would happen to Yunlan sect if she died like this. Xiao Fan didn't care about the long sword on his neck. He slowly stood up and turned to Yan Yan, looking at her steadily. I don't have any last words, but I regret that I can't marry you. In addition, if you want to kill me, wait for another day until your seal is lifted. Otherwise you and I will probably become food for the monsters. As Xiao Fan moved, Yan Yan's hand holding the long sword moved subconsciously, gradually changing the angle, and didn't even leave the slightest scar on Xiao Fan. Yan Yan comforted herself in her heart that this was a chance for Doupo Fan to say his last words, and it wouldn't be too late to kill him after he finished his last words. Hearing that Xiao Fan was still thinking about herself before he died, Yan Yan's heart trembled again, and she didn't dare to look into Xiao Fan's eyes. Seeing this, Xiao Fan directly pushed the long sword on his neck to the side and said gently, "You go back and continue to attack the seal. I will guard the monsters for you outside. Don't worry, I won't take the opportunity to escape." After speaking, Xiao Fan moved forward a little and sat at the entrance of the cave again. Yan Yan let Xiao Fan push her long sword away. Listening to Xiao Fan's words, she was confused and couldn't do anything to Xiao Fan. HMPH, you wait until I unlock the seal, take you away from the monster mountain range and then kill you. If you don't want to become the food of the monsters, I will take this as your last words. Yan Yan snorted coldly, retracted the long sword, turned around and entered the cave, and continued to attack the seal. Xiao Fan sensed Yan Yan's movements behind him, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but rise slightly. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 89, The Forgotten Person. The seal is broken. Xiao Fan thought about this incident and the various elixirs Xiao Yan gave him, and suddenly remembered that Xiao Yan seemed to have been left in the Chi Source Tower for some days. Xiao Fan sensed Yan Yan's situation in the cave, and saw that Yan Yan was trying her best to attack the seal, so he left the cave a little distance, and then moved his mind slightly and entered the Chi Source Tower. Third brother, you finally came in. If you don't come again, I can't hold on any longer. Seeing Xiao Fan's figure, Xiao Yan couldn't help but complain. It only took Xiao Yan 2 days to completely refine the Azure Lotus Earth Core Fire, and by the way, it also evolved the level of the burning art. After absorbing the Azure Lotus Earth Core Fire, Xiao Yan's cultivation level was directly upgraded to a 3-star Chi. Xiao Yan was originally very happy, but suddenly found that he couldn't leave this place at all, and Xiao Fan didn't come in, so he was immediately helpless. In the past few days, Xiao Yan relied entirely on the spiritual medicine in the ring to replenish his energy and survived, and his stomach was almost starving. Ahem. I was busy these 2 days and forgot about it. Xiao Fan felt a little embarrassed when he heard Xiao Yan's words. If Xiao Yan knew that Xiao Fan was busy picking up girls, he didn't know what his reaction would be. Xiao Yan said, "Fortunately, third brother, you weren't busy for too long, otherwise, I would have starved to death in there. It's my fault. Let me give you something good as compensation." Xiao Fan responded with a smile, and then he moved his mind and took out the harvest from the Magna World from the ring. Yao Chen saw what Xiao Fan took out and couldn't help but float out directly. "So you took all these things?" What Xiao Fan took out was the lotus seed of the Azure Lotus Earth Core Fire and the 11 lotus seeds. Xiao Fan glanced at Yao Chen and said casually, "It seems that you know what this is. You can introduce it to Yanzi. I'll give you 5 of these lotus seeds and this lotus seed as well." Xiao Fan pondered for a moment and left 6, ready to swallow and refine them directly. Yao Chen said to Xiao Yan excitedly, "Put it away quickly." Xiao Yan also understood that this thing must be very precious, and said hesitantly, "Third brother, I just said it casually, I don't mean to blame you, you have helped me so much. This thing is very precious. How can I accept it?" Xiao Fan said casually, "This is a companion item of the Azure Lotus Earth Core Fire. It has a good effect on the fire attribute, but not much effect on other attributes. Of course, Xiao Fan himself is an exception. However, although the lotus seed of the azure lotus earth core fire is helpful for cultivation, it can basically be ignored for Xiao Fan. The lotus seeds may increase a little bit of fighting spirit, so he kept more than half of it. Xiao Fan took the lotus seed and lotus seeds after hearing this. Thank you, third brother. Xiao Fan nodded slightly. Okay, I'll take you out. After you go out, you can find a way to refine some pills to improve your strength. I'll take them back to my eldest and second brothers in 2 days to improve their cultivation, at least to the level of a great fighting master. If you need any medicinal materials, just tell me. This Magic Beast mountain range is the best medicine garden. Teacher, you should talk to my third brother directly. I still know very little about refining medicine at present. Xiao Yan spread his hands and said directly to Yao Chen. Yao Chen thought for a while and reported the names of more than a dozen spiritual medicines to Xiao Fan. Xiao Fan wrote them down one by one, and then took Xiao Yan and Yao Chen out of the Yuanqi Tower and flew them a long distance. Xiao Yanzi, your strength has improved a lot. Find a magic beast to practice again. I will collect medicinal materials for you as soon as possible. Sorry for bothering third brother. Xiao Yan heard this and scratched his head a little embarrassedly. In theory, Xiao Yan himself was also responsible for refining elixirs for his two brothers Xiao Fan and Xiao Li, but his strength was too weak and some medicinal materials were hard to find. Xiao Fan waved his hand and said, okay, that's it. You go find some magic beasts to practice with. I have something else to do. After that, Xiao Fan flashed and returned to the cave where Yan was. Xiao Yan looked at Xiao Fan's flying figure, and his eyes were filled with envy. Yao Chen said lightly, don't think too far now. Find a few second-level primary magic beasts to practice with and consolidate your fighting master realm. On the other side, after Xiao Fan returned to the cave, he saw Yan stopped attacking the seal and was sitting in the cave, staring at the direction of the cave entrance, wondering what she was thinking. Seeing Xiao Fan's figure appear, Yan's originally empty heart suddenly became much more at ease. It is not necessary to attack the seal all the time. After attacking the seal for a while, Yan stopped temporarily and found that Xiao Fan was not at the entrance of the cave. She thought that Xiao Fan was afraid that she would take his life after recovery, so he ran away. On the one hand, Yan felt that if Xiao Fan just ran away, she would not have a difficult choice and would not know how to deal with Xiao Fan. On the other hand, Yan felt that everything Xiao Fan said to her before was false and he did it just to save his life, which made her feel disappointed. After seeing Xiao Fan coming back, Yan immediately realized that she had wronged Xiao Fan, and her good impression of Xiao Fan increased a lot. At the same time, her heart became more confused and she did not know how to face Xiao Fan. Xiao Fan didn't know the complicated changes in Yan's heart. Seeing that Yan seemed to be a little dazed, he asked casually, what's wrong? Yan looked at Xiao Fan with some complexity. I thought you ran away. Xiao Fan smiled faintly, since I said that I would not leave before you lifted the seal, I will definitely do what I said. As for how you will treat me after you lift the seal, that's your business. Yan subconsciously murmured, I hope you just ran away. What did you say? Xiao Fan raised his eyebrows and asked with a smile. Yan retracted her thoughts and shook her head and said, nothing. Seeing this, Xiao Fan did not deliberately expose Yan, and changed the subject. I remember that you said before that you came to the Monster Mountain range this time to get the purple spirit crystal, so you clashed with the purple crystal winged Lion King and were injured by it. After your seal is lifted, have you thought about how to get the purple spirit crystal? Is there anything I can help with? Yan heard Xiao Fan's words, thought about the purpose of her coming to the Monster Mountain range this time, and thought about Nin Yanren of the Yunlin sect, and her heart lost the will to die. After a brief pause, Yan slowly said, the purple spirit crystal is usually placed in the purple crystal winged Lion King's cave. I was planning to sneak in last time, but it finally found me, and then, after my strength recovers, I will lead the purple crystal winged Lion King away. If you are willing, you can take the opportunity to enter the purple crystal winged Lion King's cave and help me find the purple spirit crystal. There was no other way. Yan was not sure that she could defeat the purple crystal winged Lion King and forcibly seize the purple spirit crystal. She could only choose to ask Xiao Fan for help. Xiao Fan nodded and said, No problem. It was naturally not difficult for Xiao Fan to get the purple spirit crystal. However, under the current circumstances, it was obviously inconvenient for Xiao Fan to reveal his relationship with the purple crystal winged Lion King. He could only wait until later and think about how to coax Yan Yan. Speaking of which, he had to thank the purple crystal winged Lion King for being able to go to Washan with Yan Yan. That night, after Yan Yan fell asleep, Xiao Fan went directly to the purple crystal winged Lion King and asked for a piece of purple spirit crystal to store in the ring. He also told her a few words and then returned to the cave to rest. The next morning, the warm morning light shone into the cave silently. Yan Yan sat cross-legged in the cave quietly, with a strange long sword placed flat on her legs. Today, she changed into a snow-white plain dress. The phoenix ornament on her head, which was a little lazy, was gathered again, exuding a faint nobility. Her beautiful cheeks were calm and elegant. The faint weakness of the past few days had completely disappeared. Xiao Fan looked at Yan Yan's state and asked casually, "Has the seal in your body been broken?" "Yeah." Yan Yan's beautiful face seemed to have a sense of alienation, and her plain tone was like a conversation between strangers. But the look she gave Xiao Fan was very complicated, and she was a little hesitant when she put her jade hand on the long sword. Chapter 90, Medusa's mind changes and she is promoted to Zun. After a moment of silence, Yan Yan let go of the sword and said calmly, "I'm going to fight with the purple crystal winged Lion King now. And then you take the opportunity to go to the purple crystal winged Lion King's cave and help me find the purple spirit crystal. Take this crystal with you, and it will react when it encounters the purple spirit crystal." As she spoke, Yan Yan took out a diamond-shaped crystal and handed it to Xiao Fan. "Don't worry, I will definitely not delay your business." Xiao Fan took the crystal and smiled. Yan Yan didn't say anything, but suddenly stretched out her hand and lifted Xiao Fan's shoulder. "I'll take you to the purple crystal winged Lion King's cave, otherwise I'm afraid you won't be able to keep up." Xiao Fan nodded slightly, indicating that he understood, and didn't deliberately make any moves to take advantage. Seeing this, Yan Yan felt more favorable towards Xiao Fan, took a deep breath, transformed her fighting spirit into wings, and took Xiao Fan to the purple crystal winged Lion King's cave. When they were several hundred meters away from the purple crystal winged Lion King's cave, Yan Yan landed on the ground and put Xiao Fan down. "Be careful later, there may be other magic beasts around the purple crystal winged Lion King's cave." Xiao Fan smiled and said, "Are you worried about me? I actually said that I am very strong, but you don't believe it." Yan Yan immediately put on a cold face when she heard it. "Humphrey, I'm just worried that you will be eaten by magic beasts and can't help me get the purple spirit crystal." Xiao Fan shrugged slightly. "It's really sad. But don't worry, the purple spirit crystal will definitely help you get it." After that, Xiao Fan went directly to the direction of the purple crystal winged Lion King's cave. Yan Yan took a deep look at Xiao Fan's back, and then used chi to transform wings again and flew up, directly releasing the aura of a Huang strongman. Not long after, the purple crystal winged Lion King also took off again and stood opposite Yan Yan. The purple crystal winged Lion King looked at Yan Yan and said coldly, "Damn human woman, I let you escape last time, but you dare to come back. This time, I will tear you into pieces." "HMPH, do you think I'm afraid of you?" Yan Yan snorted coldly and immediately launched a fighting attack without any hesitation. While the purple crystal winged Lion King and Yan Yan were fighting, Xiao Fan staggered into the cave of the purple crystal winged Lion King. At this moment, in the cave of the purple crystal winged Lion King, it was Queen Medusa who lived. Queen Medusa first fought with a strange fire and was seriously injured. Then, she was slapped to the ground by Xiao Fan, and her injuries were aggravated. Then, Queen Medusa was worried that Xiao Fan would take away the Azure Lotus Earth Core fire, so she turned into a purple snake and rushed into the blazing Azure Lotus Earth Core fire. She was burned by the strange fire and her injuries became much more serious again. After so many days, Queen Medusa still couldn't restore her human body, but compared to a few days ago, the situation was much better. Xiao Fan looked at Queen Medusa and said casually, "Why did you do that? If you had made a deal with me earlier instead of rushing into the Azure Lotus Earth Core fire so impulsively, you wouldn't have been injured so badly." Queen Medusa said coldly, Do you really have a way to make my blood evolve? Queen Medusa was completely disdainful of Xiao Fan's words at first, thinking that Xiao Fan was simply trying to cheat the Azure Lotus Earth Core fire, so he rushed to the center of the strange fire without hesitation, wanting to risk his life. Unfortunately, her evolution process was interrupted by Xiao Fan, and she endured the pain of the strange fire in vain, and the Azure Lotus Earth Core fire was still taken away by Xiao Fan. However, what puzzled Queen Medusa was that after Xiao Fan obtained the Azure Lotus Earth Core fire, he did not kill her while she was seriously injured, but instead gave her a lot of healing elixirs. A few days later, Medusa felt the gradual recovery of her injuries, and did not find that Xiao Fan had done anything to her, which made her hesitate. Could it be that what Xiao Fan said at the beginning about intending to trade with her was actually true? Xiao Fan nodded and said, "Of course." At this point, "Do you think I need to lie to you?" Medusa was silent for a while, then said, "What are your conditions?" Xiao Fan shook his head slightly. "I said before that the Azure Lotus Earth Core fire is the condition of the transaction. Now that I have obtained the Azure Lotus Earth Core fire, I will naturally fulfill my promise and let you evolve successfully. However, I have to wait until your injuries are healed." Medusa was a little skeptical and said, "Are you really so kind? No other conditions?" Xiao Fan thought for a while and said, "Well, if you want to talk about conditions, you can say there are some." Medusa said, "What conditions?" Xiao Fan smiled slightly. "Don't be nervous, my conditions are very simple. First, you can't reveal the way I help you evolve to anyone. Second, you and the snake people must never be enemies with me and my family from now on." Medusa's heart was slightly shaken when she heard Xiao Fan's words. Perhaps her previous prejudice against humans was too great, thinking in her heart. Medusa said lightly, "Okay, I promise you. In addition, if there is a need for me to take action, I can take action for you 3 times. Deal?" Xiao Fan nodded slightly, not caring about it. "You continue to heal your wounds. I have something to go out in advance." After saying that, Xiao Fan went out of the cave directly and quickly went in one direction. It was because Xiao Fan felt that the time was about right and he could go to meet up with Yun Yun. Medusa's huge snake eyes looked at Xiao Fan's departing back, revealing a complicated expression. Xiao Fan ignored Medusa's thoughts. After leaving the cave of the purple crystal winged Lion King, Xiao Fan quickly arrived at the place agreed with Yun Yun, and then deliberately released the breath of purple spirit crystal. Roar! Suddenly, the purple crystal winged Lion King roared angrily and rushed towards Xiao Fan. Yun Yun sensed the breath of purple spirit crystal and couldn't help but feel happy, but watching the purple crystal winged Lion King rushing towards Xiao Fan, she couldn't help but feel a little worried. "The ultimate wind meteoric killing," Yun Yun shouted coldly, and directly used her best skill to attack the purple crystal winged Lion King. The purple crystal winged Lion King did not dare to neglect Yun Yun's attack, and had to stop and maneuver. Yun Yun took the opportunity to flash to Xiao Fan's side, put her arm around Xiao Fan, and quickly fled away. The purple crystal winged Lion King watched the two of them leave, and roared a few more times in a pretentious manner, then randomly found a direction and rushed around, as if searching for Yun Yun and Xiao Fan. "Are you okay?" Yun Yun took Xiao Fan away for dozens of miles before landing on the ground and putting him down, and asked with some concern, "It's okay. This is the purple spirit crystal you want?" Xiao Fan shook his head slightly, took out the purple spirit crystal from the ring and handed it to Yun Yun. Yun Yun checked and found that Xiao Fan was indeed not injured. Then she relaxed, stretched out her hand to take the purple spirit crystal, bit her red lips and said, "Thank you." Xiao Fan said casually, "You're welcome. It's just a small matter." After the two finished talking, they suddenly fell silent. Yun Yun looked at the young and handsome face in front of her. Her heart was in a mess, and she squeezed the purple spirit crystal's hand, tightening and loosening it from time to time. After a long time, Yun Yun still chose not to speak to Xiao Fan. "What happened yesterday, just treat it as a dream. You are not allowed to mention it to anyone, otherwise I will never let you go." Xiao Fan knew that Yun Yun would definitely not kill him, and he immediately said, "Don't worry, I will definitely not tell anyone." Yun Yun looked at Xiao Fan deeply and said lightly, "I'm leaving." After the voice fell, Yun Yun's green wings behind her fluttered slightly, and her figure elegantly flew into the sky and quickly disappeared from Xiao Fan's sight. Xiao Fan looked at the direction where Yun Yun left, but he didn't feel too sad. Anyway, he knew that Yun Yun was in Yunlin sect, and he could go to her at any time. In a blink of an eye, 4 days had passed since Yun Yun left, and there was only 1 day left before Xiao Fan and Wang Teng's scheduled battle. On this day, Xiao Fan, through his own hard practice and devouring many magical beasts and natural treasures, finally broke through from the peak of the 9-starred zone to the Zun realm. Yes, it's time to take the Zun pill. After sensing his new realm, Xiao Fan nodded with satisfaction, and then took out the Zun pill from the ring and swallowed it. Chapter 91. Xiao Yan was stunned by his die-hard fangirl Yan Lingjai. Boom. As soon as the pill entered his stomach, Xiao Fan sensed that a pure and huge energy was pouring into his body. Xiao Fan immediately activated the Thunder Emperor technique and began to refine and absorb the pure and huge energy. As Xiao Fan refined and absorbed, his aura gradually increased, and the terrifying aura suppressed the area of hundreds of miles. In the Warcraft Mountains, in a somewhat dilapidated cave, the purple crystal-winged Lion King was lying on the ground board. When he sensed the terrifying aura, his face suddenly changed and he stood up suddenly. This aura is so strong, and it's a little familiar. The purple crystal-winged Lion King whispered in his mouth, and in fear, he was ready to escape quickly, but soon he sensed a familiar aura and recognized that it was Xiao Fan's aura. How could his strength be so strong? It seems that I will never have a chance to get rid of him in this life. Sensing Xiao Fan's aura, the purple crystal-winged Lion King was no longer in a hurry to escape. But thinking of his situation, he felt helpless again. On the other side, in a forest in the magical Beast Mountain range, Yao Chen was secretly watching Xiao Yan fight a second-level primary magic beast. Suddenly, Yao Chen's soul shadow trembled, and he was shocked. How could its Zun-level strong man appear in such a place? The magic beast that was fighting with Xiao Yan was frightened by the powerful aura and fled far away. Xiao Yan did not chase after the demon beast. He was also very shocked when he heard what Yao Chen said. Zun. Is he a strong man above Zhang? Yes, Yao Chen nodded slightly, and suddenly he was shocked. This aura is actually your third brother Xiao Fan. Zhang at the age of 18 is already very surprising. I didn't expect that he would break through to the Zun realm so quickly. Xiao Yan was even more stunned when he heard that. Teacher, you said that the Zun strong man who suddenly appeared is my third brother? Yao Chen nodded slightly. You can't be wrong. Xiao Yan showed a bitter smile on his face. I'm still struggling in the Qi realm, and my third brother is already at Zun. How can the gap between people be so big? Yao Chen comforted him. Your third brother must have his own adventures. In every era, there will be some proud sons of heaven who leave their peers far behind. Don't compare yourself with him. With your age and background, you can reach Qi at the age of 15, which is also excellent. Xiao Yan took a deep breath. Fortunately, this proud child of heaven is my third brother. However, I can't be left behind too much. After you help Queen Medusa refine the healing pill, we will set off for the next stop. Yao Chen nodded slightly. I am planning to do that. In the cave of the purple crystal-winged Lion King, Queen Medusa was still in the purple snake state at this time. Sensing the powerful aura coming from Xiao Fan not far away, Queen Medusa was also greatly shocked. This human man, who obviously doesn't look very old, how can he have such a powerful aura? Xiao Fan ignored the shock of Xiao Yan, Yao Chen and Medusa, and was refining and absorbing the power of the Zun pill with all his strength. A quarter of an hour later, he broke through from a 1-star Zun to a 2-star Zun, and the pure energy in his body has not been completely refined. Another half an hour passed, and Xiao Fan's cultivation level broke through from a 2-star Zun to a 3-star Zun. At this time, the power of the Zun pill was finally completely refined and absorbed by him. Xiao Fan let out a long breath and slowly opened his eyes. He looked at Medusa's pair of vertical pupils, staring at him, and couldn't help but tease. Why are you looking at me like that? Are you attracted to me? However, I have to wait until you have completed your evolution and transformed into a human form before I can accept you. Medusa ignored Xiao Fan's teasing and said in a deep voice, How old are you? It's been a while since my 18th birthday, so I'm almost 18 and a half. Xiao Fan smiled and answered casually. Queen Medusa asked again, What is your current cultivation level? Xiao Fan smiled faintly. Keep it secret for now. After you have completed your evolution, we will fight. If you beat me, I will tell you. Okay. Queen Medusa looked at Xiao Fan deeply and agreed. Queen Medusa was also very much looking forward to her strength after evolution. At that time, she could just fight with Xiao Fan to test her own strength. Xiao Fan smiled mysteriously. This fight is not an ordinary fight, Medusa said coldly. No matter what kind of fight, how can I be afraid of you? Xiao Fan laughed and did not continue the topic. It seems that your injuries should have recovered almost. When can you turn into a human form again? Medusa said, tomorrow night at the latest. The two chatted casually for a few more words, and Xiao Fan left the cave and continued to search for spiritual medicines and natural treasures in the Magic Beast mountain range. Time passed. In a blink of an eye, it was the day of Xiao Fan and Wang Teng's battle. It was still evening that day, and Xiao Fan sensed the message of at him in the chat group. Xiao Fan directly sank his consciousness into the chat group, and soon saw the message in the group. The person who at him was Wang Teng. The chat group of all realms. Chat interface. Wang Teng. At Xiao Fan, 10 days have passed. It's time to start the decisive battle between us. Are you ready? Yan Lingjai. Humphrey. Are you so anxious to be abused? Since brother Xiao Fan promised you, he will definitely not break his promise. Disdain. The appointment was made in the evening, and there is still an hour left. Xiaoxiao. At Wang Teng. I wonder what level of cultivation Master Wang Teng has reached now? Xiao Fan glanced casually and found that everyone in the chat group was talking to him, and he was in a good mood. Seeing Xiaoxiao's question, Xiao Fan's eyes narrowed slightly. He also wanted to know about Wang Teng's cultivation. Wang Teng, when Xiao Fan and I fight, you will know. Xiao Fan was disappointed to see that Wang Teng did not respond. However, Xiao Fan is now at Zun equivalent to the second level of Xian Tai, so he has enough confidence. After all, Wang Teng in the original book 7 years later was only the second level of Xian Tai. Thinking in his heart, Xiao Fan also responded to the message in the group. Xiao Fan, at Yan Lingjai. Yes, what you said touched my heart, so I will give you a benefit. Yan Lingjai's exclusive red envelope. Yan Lingjai received Xiao Fan's red envelope and won 500,000 points. Xiao Fan now needs an astronomical number of points to upgrade each realm, and he no longer has much hope for points. In addition, after Yan Lingjai's trip to the Demon Revival world, she has already reached the Heavenly Man realm comparable to the Duang, and too few points will not be of much use. Therefore, Xiao Fan directly gave her 500,000 points. Although Xiaoxiao said that she was his little fan girl, for so long, Yan Lingjai has been his consistent hardcore fan girl in the chat group. Xiao Fan doesn't mind giving more benefits. Yan Lingjai. Wow, a big package of 500,000 points. Brother Xiao Fan, I love you so much. Blowing kiss. Xiaoxiao. Lord Thunder Emperor is mighty and domineering. Worship. Wan Wan. Lord Thunder Emperor actually gave Yan Lingjai 500,000 points directly. I'm so envious. Envy. Huang Rong. I'm also envious. Starry eyes. Yan Lingjai. Hee. Envy is useless. I just know that brother Xiao Fan loves me the most. Proud. Soon, all the members of the group started to discuss Xiao Fan. Wang Teng was immediately unhappy when he saw this. Wang Teng, at Xiao Fan, don't change the subject. When will the decisive battle begin? Xiao Fan, at Wang Teng, since you're so eager to be abused, of course I have to fulfill your wish. Right now. Xiao Fan, at Xiaoxiao, please invite Wang Teng. Xiaoxiao, okay. Lord Thunder Emperor. Chapter 92 Betting and the War begins. After telling Xiaoxiao, Xiao Fan exited the chat interface and used the world traveling function of the Wanji chat group to instantly cross over to the world of Demon Resurrection. Lord Thunder Emperor, you came so quickly. Xiaoxiao was surprised to see Xiao Fan suddenly appear. Xiao Fan smiled faintly. I will take you to the battlefield first, and you will watch the battle from the side. After saying that, without waiting for Xiaoxiao to react, Xiao Fan put his arm around Xiaoxiao's slender waist and directly used the space-traveling magical power. In a flash, they arrived at the island group with a terrain like a bug. This was exactly the best battlefield Xiao Fan had chosen. As soon as the two arrived at one of the islands, a light gate appeared in the space not far in front of Xiaoxiao. A golden ancient chariot flew out of the light gate, with a tall figure standing on it, and the whole body was covered by golden light that soared into the sky. Around it, there are 9 real dragons, 9 divine phoenixes, 9 white tigers, and 9 black tortoises flashing, and the divine light turns into 4 images, surrounding it, which looks quite imposing. Xiao Fan looked at the way Wang Tang appeared and couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Good guy, he is really pretentious. The main thing is that the golden ancient chariot is indeed quite cool. Xiao Fan admitted that he was a little tempted by Wang Tang's pretentious vehicle. You are Xiao Fan and Xiaoxiao? Wang Tang stood on the ancient chariot, looking down at Xiao Fan and Xiaoxiao, and uttered an indifferent voice. Xiao Fan put Xiaoxiao aside, flew up, and stood in front of Wang Tang. He carefully looked at the golden ancient chariot for a while, and said with a smile, Wang Tang, right? Do you dare to add a bet to our duel? Wang Tang said lightly, why not? What do you want to bet? Xiao Fan said, if you lose, your chariot will belong to me. Humphrey. Wang Tang was furious when he saw that Xiao Fan was actually thinking about his chariot. What can you have that is worth as much as this emperor's chariot? Xiao Fan smiled lightly. This young master has an awakening pool. As long as you enter it, you can awaken your bloodline, magical powers, physique, etc. This awakening pool can be used unlimitedly. For a family, I don't need to say more about its preciousness, right? Wang Tang's pupils shrank slightly when he heard this. In the world of shrouding the sky, the bonus effect of physique and bloodline on cultivation is unquestionable. If the awakening pool that Xiao Fan mentioned really has such a powerful effect, its value is indeed inestimable. Wang Tang had to admit that he was also tempted by the awakening pool that Xiao Fan mentioned. How can I know if the awakening pool you mentioned really has the effect you said? Xiao Fan said casually, it's not that simple. Just let Xiaoxiao enter the awakening pool and try it. After the voice fell, Xiao Fan's mind moved slightly, and he directly took out the awakening pool from the system space and placed it in front of Xiaoxiao. He also landed in front of Xiaoxiao at the same time. Xiaoxiao, you just heard about the function of this awakening pool. Go in and try it. In your world, it is estimated that the possibility of awakening superpowers is relatively high. Xiaoxiao is now Fan's woman. Xiao Fan originally planned to let her use the awakening pool and also show Wang Tang the power of the awakening pool. Okay, Xiaoxiao agreed and stepped directly into the awakening pool. With Wang Tang's current realm, he can see at a glance that Xiaoxiao does not have any special physique or bloodline. He also wants to see if Xiaoxiao can awaken any bloodline or physique. Under the gaze of Xiao Fan and Wang Tang, after Xiaoxiao entered the awakening pool, a layer of mysterious mist enveloped her body, and at the same time a mysterious energy entered her body. A quarter of an hour later, this strange phenomenon disappeared, and Xiaoxiao walked out of the awakening pool. Xiao Fan's mind moved slightly, and he put away the awakening pool, and said to Xiaoxiao, how do you feel? Xiaoxiao said, I have awakened a magical power called freezing 10,000 miles, but this magical power will be limited by my strength. With my current strength, I can directly freeze 100 miles in radius. 100 miles in radius is about 7,850 square kilometers. The area of the island country where they are now is 378,000 square kilometers in total. If Xiaoxiao uses it once a day, in more than a month, she can directly freeze and destroy this small country. Not bad. You can use it to see the effect. Xiao Fan silently calculated in his mind and said casually, okay. Xiaoxiao agreed, her face full of seriousness, and she whispered, ice for thousands of miles. The next moment, with Xiao Fan and Xiaoxiao as the center, the area within 100 miles turned into a world of ice and snow. The cities, villages, flowers, trees, and demons that were killing everywhere within 100 miles were all instantly frozen, forming a huge community of ice sculptures. Wang Tang looked at this scene, and his pupils shrank slightly. Although Xiaoxiao's move did not seem to threaten him, Xiaoxiao's current strength was still relatively weak. If Xiaoxiao's realm was raised to the same level as his, This magical power would probably pose a great threat to him. At this time, Wang Teng was even more attracted to the awakening pool. I agree to this bet. Xiao Fan shook his head slightly at this time. It's just that this ancient chariot is far less valuable than the awakening pool. With the addition of the ancient Chaos Sutra you practiced, this bet is equal. Wang Teng's face changed when he heard this. Absolutely impossible. The ancient Chaos Sutra is the fundamental practice of Wang Teng's practice, and it can even reach the realm of the Great Emperor. Wang Teng will never reveal it to anyone. Xiao Fan naturally knew that Wang Teng would definitely not agree, so he said again, then add the previous word secret or the ancient chaos talisman, or do you think you are sure to lose, so you dare not agree to any bet? Wang Teng suddenly laughed. How can this emperor fail? Well, this emperor bets with you. If this emperor loses, the ancient chaos talisman and the ancient chariot will belong to you. This is actually exactly what Xiao Fan wants. Xiao Fan smiled slightly. Okay, that's settled. Let's give all the things to Xiaoxiao for safekeeping, so that the loser won't regret it. Humphrey, how can this emperor be a person who doesn't keep his word? Wang Teng heard this and snorted coldly, but after a slight hesitation, he still put a piece of the ancient divine talisman into the ancient chariot and sent it to Xiaoxiao's side. Xiao Fan's mind moved slightly, and he also sent the awakening pool to Xiaoxiao's side. Then, Xiao Fan and Wang Teng stepped into the air at the same time and stood opposite each other. Fight! Wang Teng stared at the direction of Xiao Fan, and rumbled in his mouth, shaking the surrounding ice layer to collapse continuously. Boom! The endless void collapsed and collapsed completely. There was no idea how many black abysses appeared, and even to the eternal unknown, there was a sound like a landslide and tsunami. This was a blow from Wang Teng. He was imposing, like an ancient emperor, with endless illusions in his eyes and brilliant divine light. The shadows of the four divine beasts, namely the true dragon, the divine phoenix, the white tiger and the black tortoise, reappeared, covering Wang Teng's body, and they roared towards Xiao Fan at the same time. Chapter 93 A horrific war. Mountains and rivers shattered. Xiaoxiao looked at Wang Teng's terrifying attack and couldn't help but be shocked. If it was her, facing Wang Teng's attack, she would have died directly. At the same time, Xiaoxiao was still a little worried about Xiao Fan. Between Wang Teng and Xiao Fan, Xiaoxiao naturally preferred Xiao Fan. She hoped that Xiao Fan would be the final winner of this battle. From Wang Teng's momentum, Xiao Fan quickly judged Wang Teng's current cultivation level. He was at the peak of the 9th level of the 1st level of Xiantai, and only one step away from entering the 2nd level of Xiantai. It seems that Wang Teng has exchanged a lot of chat group points in the past few days to improve his cultivation. Thinking in his heart, Xiao Fan's movements were not slow at all. Xiao Fan casually drew his right hand in front of him, and suddenly a large space crack was broken in front of him. All the powerful attacks launched by Wang Teng fell into the large space crack. The shadows of the four beasts rushed towards Xiao Fan too fast, and they also sank into the space crack in an instant. Xiao Fan's mind moved slightly, and the big crack in the void healed instantly. Wang Teng's attack and the phantoms of the four beasts disappeared at the same time. Wang Teng didn't expect that Xiao Fan would actually use the power of space to deal with his attack, and easily transferred all his attacks to the void space. A solemn look flashed in his eyes. In the world of the sky, the Ji family is the best at using the way of space to fight the enemy. The ancestor of the Ji family, the Void Emperor, controls the space to the extreme, and no one can compare. He has heaven-defying means. He is almost invincible and unbreakable when fighting against anyone. Thunder Emperor Palm. Xiao Fan didn't give Wang Teng time to think about it. He shouted in his heart, and when his palm flipped, a huge thunder palm suddenly appeared in the night sky and slammed down in the direction of Wang Teng. Jing the sword rang and shook the sky. Facing Xiao Fan's attack, Wang Teng held the Heavenly Emperor sword. His long black hair completely stood up, his eyes were as sharp as a knife, and when the long sword was swung, a terrifying sword light cut through the night sky and slashed at the giant thunder palm. Boom! The sword light and the giant thunder palm collided in an instant, and a sound that shook the world suddenly rang out in the night sky. Boom boom! The aftermath of the sword light and the giant thunder palm landed on the ground, and directly in the ice layer, A huge pit hundreds of feet deep was shaken out. This guy, his luck is really enviable. Looking at the Heavenly Emperor's sword in Wang Teng's hand, Xiao Fan couldn't help but secretly complain in his heart. However, this didn't threaten Xiao Fan. Thunder Emperor sword, Xiao Fan shouted in his heart, frantically urging the fighting spirit in his body, and a terrifying thunder sword suddenly appeared in his right hand, and he attacked Wang Teng fiercely. Boom, boom, dot. The two of them fought back and forth, attacking frantically. In a moment, they had exchanged countless moves. The terrifying sword light directly cut through the void. As for the ground under their feet, the sword light emitted by the two directly cut out abysses. Within hundreds of miles, there was not an inch of intact land. This is truly a veritable destruction of mountains and rivers. Xiaoxiao, who was watching the battle between the two, was simply shocked beyond words. Wang Teng is really strong. However, it seems that Mr. Xiao is a little stronger. After all, Mr. Xiao is fighting Wang Teng with his bare hands with the Emperor of Heaven's sword. Xiaoxiao could only barely distinguish the identities of the two fighting parties, but she could not see the specific battle at all. Xiaoxiao was staring at the battle in the air, and suddenly the phone watch on her wrist rang. Xiaoxiao looked at it and found that it was a call from Long Wu, the guardian of the Panda Kingdom. After a slight hesitation, Xiaoxiao answered the phone. "Senior Long, what's wrong?" Long Wu said. "Xiaoxiao, satellite images show that a fierce battle took place over Wo country, and you were also spotted. Do you know the identities of the two fighting parties? What is their purpose?" Xiao Fan destroyed the source of the demon revival last time. Because of the mutant mouse, all the powerful forces in Wo country died. Coupled with the demon impact sent by Xiao Fan, Wo country is basically ruined. Panda country received the news from Long Wu in advance and took some actions. They were thinking that when the demon actions of Wo country were almost over, they would finish it off and turn Wo country into a mineral province. Unexpectedly, tonight, Panda country monitored the battle over Wo country. So, Long Wu contacted Xiaoxiao. Xiaoxiao said, "The two people in the battle are not from our world. They will leave after the battle. Senior Long, you don't have to worry about their purpose." Long Wu smiled bitterly and said, "How can I not worry about these two terrifying strong men? Since you said they will leave soon, I am relieved." Long Wu exchanged a few words with Xiaoxiao and ended the call. At this time, at the headquarters of the Special Department, Long Wu and several heads of the Special Department also watched the battle scene of Xiao Fan and Wang Teng in the satellite image. Are these two guys still human? This kind of battle is too terrifying, right? Yes, just the aftermath of their battle. I don't know how many unlucky people died. Fortunately, they fought in Wo country. This is good. It can avoid some unnecessary troubles for us to take over Wo country. We can't just slaughter those Wo people at will. At this time, above Wo country, the battle between Xiao Fan and Wang Teng has entered a white-hot state. After a blow, Wang Teng and Xiao Fan distanced themselves again. The warm-up is over. All spirits become Tao, countless. Wang Teng shouted, and all kinds of power in this world turned into the rules of Tao, the essence of plants, the essence of the sun, the glimmer of the stars, the origin of the universe, all pour down. Wang Teng observed for a long time, and finally used a great attack technique in the Emperor's scripture. This is a very terrible divine technique, which makes people feel like they are trapped in a nightmare and difficult to resist. Between heaven and earth, a dense net was formed in a moment, with silver and purple. All spirits turned into Tao, countless Ganges sands, becoming a terrifying invisible net, falling towards Xiao Fan's net. Space annihilation. Xiao Fan shouted, and the space around his body suddenly shattered. The terrifying power of nothingness seemed to annihilate everything. The big net formed by all spirits turning into Tao was all cut off by the power of space, and all the rules on it were all annihilated by the power of space. Boom. Everything disappeared, and the Tao trace was annihilated and no longer existed. Only Xiao Fan's tall body was suspended in the void between heaven and earth. Space strangulation. Xiao Fan shouted softly. His hand slightly changed, and the terrifying space force instantly enveloped Wang Teng. The endless space force strangled Wang Teng at 360 degrees without dead angles. In a flash, Wang Teng's body was strangled into powder by the endless space force, and it drifted away with the wind. Hiss, Master Xiao is too powerful. Could it be that Wang Teng was crushed to ashes by Master Xiao? Xiaoxiao looked at this scene, her eyes widened, and she couldn't help muttering. At the headquarters of the special department, Long Wu and others looked at the shocking scene on the screen, and they were all speechless. Chapter 94 ends. A new battle. However, at the same time when Wang Teng's body was destroyed, a golden soul suddenly appeared in the void, manifested as a god, and then turned into a sword of Tao. A burst of clear air rushed up, and under the protection of the sword of Tao, it went up against the sky and reunited, with a solemn appearance, like a god descending on earth. Kill me Ming Daoju, it's really extraordinary. Xiao Fan looked at the reappeared Wang Teng and murmured, according to rumors, the Kill Me Ming Daoju is related to the Ruthless Emperor. The Ruthless Emperor shed his demon body, reshaped the divine fetus, and lived another life. However, the Kill Me Ming Daoju mastered by Wang Teng was obviously flawed. In the sky, Wang Teng suddenly screamed, bleeding all over, his skin shattered, and he almost turned into meat sauce. Xiao Fan did not rush to attack. He looked at the miserable Wang Teng and said lightly, Wang Teng, do you admit defeat? If you continue to fight, I can't guarantee that I can let you stay alive next time. Boom. As the voice fell, Xiao Fan's terrifying aura pressed towards Wang Teng, and at the same time, he directly displayed the magical power of Dragon Might and the terrifying soul deterrence technique. At the same time, in the depths of Xiao Fan's mind, a soul sword has been condensed. If Wang Teng still doesn't admit defeat, he will directly launch a fatal attack on Wang Teng's soul. To be honest, Xiao Fan's current fighting spirit attack methods are somewhat inferior to Wang Teng, but whether it is spatial magical power or soul attack, Xiao Fan has absolute confidence. What's more, there is also the powerful auxiliary magical power of Dragon Might, which can directly weaken the opponent's strength. Since Wang Teng was born, he has been invincible and has been invincible all the way, but now his body has been destroyed by Xiao Fan. The anger in his heart can be imagined. Just when Wang Teng wanted to do everything he could to fight Xiao Fan to the death, he could not help but feel a strong sense of oppression coming from Xiao Fan. Wang Teng found that his strength was directly weakened by nearly 50% at this moment, and his soul was trembling slightly. Gentlemen, take revenge. 10 years is not too late. Taking a deep breath, Wang Teng said in a deep voice, I admit defeat. The ancient chariot and the chaotic ancient divine talisman are yours. For Wang Teng, the ancient chariot is just a tool for traveling, and it can also enhance his appearance. He also has another piece of the chaotic ancient divine talisman. Although Wang Teng felt a little distressed about the loss of these two things, he could finally accept it. At this moment, Wang Teng couldn't help but feel fortunate that he didn't agree to use the chaotic ancient scripture as a bet before. Xiao Fan smiled faintly, I know you are dissatisfied in your heart, and even think about revenge in the future, but it doesn't matter. The enemy who was defeated by me will never be regarded as an opponent by me. I will give you time to catch up until you can't see it anymore. After speaking, Xiao Fan's figure flashed and landed beside Xiaoxiao. With a slight movement of his mind, he put the awakening pool, the ancient chariot and the chaotic ancient divine talisman into the system space, and then held Xiaoxiao in one hand and shuttled through the space. Wang Teng looked at the backs of Xiao Fan and Xiaoxiao leaving, and the expression in his eyes changed. Damn it! Thinking of Xiao Fan's last words, Wang Teng felt even more humiliated and angry. He roared and swung the emperor's sword violently, venting his anger indiscriminately, as if he wanted to wipe out the area in front of him that had humiliated him. The fight between Xiao Fan and Wang Teng had already destroyed a small half of this insect-like country, and that was just the aftermath of their attack. Now Wang Teng was venting his anger wantonly, and half an hour later, he destroyed the remaining part of this small country into a mess. Humphrey, after venting his anger, Wang Teng snorted coldly in the direction where Xiao Fan left, and then with a thought, he returned to the world of the sky through the world shuttle function of the chat group. Panda Country, Special Department Headquarters. Long Wu and several heads of special departments looked at the screen and were stunned. That guy, wasn't he killed by young Master Xiao? Even his body was destroyed. But he came back to life? I don't know who that guy is, and he fought with young Master Xiao to such a terrifying situation. I don't know what means young Master Xiao used later, but he still managed to subdue that guy. Young Master Xiao is still amazing. Although that guy is not young Master Xiao's opponent, his power is also very terrifying when he vents his anger. Fortunately, the place where they fought is not in our country's territory. Wo country is completely finished this time. After a few people discussed it, they also contacted the cabinet to discuss taking over the island of Wo country as soon as possible. At this time, Xiao Fan did not leave the demon revival world directly. At this moment, he was sitting on the sofa in Su Xiaoxiao's house, chatting casually with Su Xiaoxiao. Haha, Wang Teng did a good thing. Sensing Wang Teng's behavior, Xiao Fan laughed and said to Su Xiaoxiao. Su Xiaoxiao asked curiously, "What did he do?" Xiao Fan said, "After we left, Wang Teng almost destroyed the Wo kingdom." Su Xiaoxiao smiled and said, "This is indeed a good thing." Xiao Fan nodded slightly. "I stayed here because I was worried that Wang Teng would be angry with you and your country. Now that he has returned to the world of Zacian, I should go back too." Su Xiaoxiao heard what Xiao Fan said, stepped forward and took Xiao Fan's arm. A pair of car lights pressed on Xiao Fan's arm, and said in a delicate voice, "Mr. Xiao, you care about me so much. You have come here with great difficulty. Don't you want to leave something before leaving?" Xiao Fan raised his eyebrows slightly. "Leave what?" Su Xiaoxiao leaned close to Xiao Fan's ear and said with a breath as sweet as orchid, "Leave." After that, Su Xiaoxiao kissed Xiao Fan directly. "Let's take a shower first," Xiao Fan said after kissing for a while, and then separated Su Xiaoxiao. Although Xiao Fan was not injured in the battle with Wang Teng just now, he was inevitably stained with some dust and blood. Su Xiaoxiao naturally had no objection to this. Immediately, Xiao Fan picked up Su Xiaoxiao by the waist and went to the bathroom as if he was familiar with the place. The two of them washed each other first. Xiao Fan put Su Xiaoxiao on the bed and shook his head slightly at Su Xiaoxiao, who had no strength left. "Mr. Xiao, I'm really exhausted," Su Xiaoxiao said weakly after looking at Xiao Fan. "Forget it. You should take a rest. Practice hard in the future. When you are stronger, I will have a good exchange with you," Xiao Fan said with a smile after looking at Su Xiaoxiao. "Okay, I'm going to sleep," Su Xiaoxiao said, and then she closed her eyes and fell asleep quickly. She was really too tired. Xiao Fan looked at Su Xiaoxiao, who was sleeping soundly, shook his head slightly, and covered her with a quilt. Xiao Fan leaned over slightly, kissed Su Xiaoxiao on the forehead, changed his clothes, and moved his mind slightly. He directly returned to the Qi world through the Wanji chat group and went straight to the cave that originally belonged to the Purple Crystal Winged Lion King. As soon as he entered the cave of the Amethyst Winged Lion King, Xiao Fan was suddenly stunned. Looking at the beautiful scenery in the cave, his eyes could not move away. Chapter 95, Endless Beauty, Medusa Evolves. I saw that Queen Medusa, who was originally a purple snake, was transforming into a human form. At this moment, Medusa's chest and above had already turned into a human form. Medusa's face was so beautiful that it almost reached the level of enchantment. A pair of narrow and long lavender eyes, with a natural charm in the eyes. More importantly, Medusa had nothing on her at the moment. The beautiful scenery of the upper body was all exposed to Xiao Fan's sight, and with most of the snake body and tail, the enchantment was wild, which made Xiao Fan stare straight. Not only that, the part below Queen Medusa's chest was also gradually changing from a snake body to a human form, from the chest to the belly, to the slender waist, to, then the slender legs, and finally to the smooth feet. This whole process is exactly the same as the scene of Bei Suzhen's appearance in the new legend of the white snake that Xiao Fan had seen in his previous life. The difference is that for some reason, Bei Suzhen only showed the audience the part above the neck when she appeared. At this moment, Queen Medusa was completely exposed from head to toe in front of Xiao Fan. The place where Queen Medusa was staying was originally the cave of the Purple Crystal Winged Lion King, who had been driven away by Xiao Fan. Moreover, Xiao Fan also laid a battle barrier at the entrance of the cave, and would reinforce it every day. Medusa was not worried that there would be monsters or humans suddenly breaking in, and Xiao Fan was not there. so she chose to change into a human form after her snake body was mostly healed. After all, after changing into a human form, whether it was cultivation or healing, the efficiency would be higher. However, Medusa never thought that Xiao Fan would suddenly appear when she just started to transform. Moreover, the transformation had already begun and could not be easily interrupted, so she could only speed up the transformation with all her strength. Despite this, Xiao Fan still had a feast for the eyes. What was even more helpless was that Queen Medusa, who had transformed into a human, had no clothes for the time being and could only be exposed in front of Xiao Fan. However, Queen Medusa's mind was much better than that of an ordinary person. After a slight fluctuation in her heart, she regained her composure and said to Xiao Fan coldly, "Have you seen enough?" "No." Xiao Fan shook his head subconsciously upon hearing this, and took a few more glances at the beautiful scenery in front of him. "Humphrey, men are really the same. Give me a piece of clothing." Medusa snorted coldly and frowned. "Ahem, with such a beautiful scenery in front of me, how can I not appreciate it?" Xiao Fan coughed dryly and replied, but still took out a set of his own clothes from the ring and handed it to Medusa. When Medusa saw that it was Xiao Fan's clothes, her beautiful eyebrows frowned again, and finally she had no choice but to put them on. Medusa was tall and straight, and she looked quite suitable in Xiao Fan's clothes. However, because of the difference between women and men, the chest area seemed a little tight. Xiao Fan suddenly discovered that after Medusa put on her clothes, she became even more. Medusa naturally didn't know what Xiao Fan was thinking. After putting on her clothes, she looked at Xiao Fan and said, "Didn't you say that there was a way to help me evolve? What is it?" Xiao Fan suppressed his restlessness a little and said with a smile, "Don't resist first. I'll take you to a place and you'll know." After that, Xiao Fan wrapped Medusa with his soul power, and his mind moved slightly. The two entered the Source Chi Tower together. "What is this place?" Medusa took a look at the environment in the Source Chi Tower, feeling the thick energy of heaven and earth in the space, as well as the source energy contained in it, and couldn't help but ask. Of course, Medusa didn't recognize that it was the source energy. Xiao Fan said casually, "This is one of my treasures. Don't worry about it. It's not this that can help you evolve, but another treasure of mine." After the voice fell, Xiao Fan directly took out the awakening pool from the system space and placed it in the hall of the Source Chi Tower. Xiao Fan had just placed the awakening pool in the main hall of the Yuaki Tower, and Medusa was subconsciously attracted by it. In her heart, she seemed to have a desire for the awakening pool. Xiao Fan did not beat around the bush and said to Medusa directly, "My treasure is called the awakening pool. If you enter it, it will help you awaken and evolve your blood level." Medusa could feel that the awakening pool had an inexplicable attraction to her. Hearing Xiao Fan's words, she nodded slightly and immediately walked towards the awakening pool. As soon as she entered the awakening pool, Medusa felt that there was a mysterious energy in the awakening pool that poured into her body. Under the effect of that mysterious energy, Medusa felt that her blood suddenly boiled, and it seemed that something in her body was about to awaken. Medusa had a hunch in her heart that it was the blood evolution she had been thinking about for many years and wanted to achieve. Xiao Fan did not interfere, but just watched the changes in Queen Medusa silently, while admiring Queen Medusa's exquisite and graceful figure. Roar! Suddenly, Medusa let out a python roar, and the clothes she was wearing exploded into pieces with a bang, flying in all directions. Medusa's graceful figure was once again completely exposed to Xiao Fan. "No way, use this to test cadres? Which cadre can withstand such a test?" Seeing this, Xiao Fan's restless heart, which he had suppressed with great difficulty, began to beat again, and he couldn't help but mutter. However, before Xiao Fan could appreciate it too much, Medusa's body turned into a huge purple snake body again. The purple snake body kept rolling in the awakening pool, undergoing an amazing transformation. Suddenly, a pillar of light in the awakening pool lit up. The pillar of light was 9-colored, wrapping Queen Medusa in it. The huge 9-color pillar of light was so gorgeous that it made the main hall of the Source Chi Tower look colorful. Crack, crack. A quarter of an hour later, the 9-color pillar of light made a cracking sound. An extremely large 9-colored giant python rushed out of the awakening pool, and the 9-colored light column also completely sank into the giant python's body. Sure enough, it evolved directly into a 9-colored swallowing sky python. Xiao Fan looked at the 9-colored giant python and whispered. This was not different from his original expectation. The 9-colored giant python slowly coiled up its body, and its huge vertical pupils stared at Xiao Fan for a while, and a hint of hesitation flashed across it. Immediately, the colorful and gorgeous 9-colored luster surged out of the giant python's body and began to change into a human form again. Although it was blocked by the 9-colored luster, this was in the source cast tower. Xiao Fan could clearly sense every corner. Even if the naked eye could not see it clearly, he could sense the process of Queen Medusa's transformation from a snake body to a human form bit by bit. Xiao Fan admired the beautiful scenery in the purple crystal-winged Lion King's cave again. Not long after, Queen Medusa's exquisite and graceful body slowly walked out of the 9-colored brilliance. The cold and charming face and the breathtaking figure made Xiao Fan lose his mind for a while. Xiao Fan looked at Medusa, who was approaching him, and suddenly said, "Medusa, you promised to fight with me before, why don't we start now?" Medusa said lightly, "Give me a set of clothes first." Medusa has practiced for many years, and the accumulation of fighting spirit in her body has long reached the level of breakthrough, but it is the limitation of her own bloodline that cannot break through to a higher level. This time, her bloodline directly evolved to the level of 9-colored sky-swallowing python. There is no bottleneck restriction, and she easily broke through to the Zong realm, and directly reached the 4-star Zong. The injuries that had been mostly recovered were also healed directly. Medusa was not afraid of fighting with Xiao Fan, and she also wanted to try her own strength after evolution. Xiao Fan smiled mysteriously. "I'll give it to you after we finish fighting, otherwise I'll waste another set of new clothes later." Medusa frowned. "What do you mean?" If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 96, Battle with Medusa. Xiao Fan's previous battle with Xiaoxiao was not a hardy one. After returning to the Qi world, he was repeatedly tested by Medusa unintentionally, and he could no longer bear it. Moreover, Xiao Fan had some understanding of Medusa's character. If he wanted to keep trying to be gentle, he would never be able to truly conquer Medusa's body and mind. Therefore, Xiao Fan decided to start by conquering Medusa's body, and then conquer her heart. Thinking in his heart, Xiao Fan smiled and said, "You will understand soon." As soon as the voice fell, Xiao Fan took the initiative to move closer to Medusa. Medusa quickly understood what Xiao Fan meant, and a cold look rose on her face. "Asshole, you are as shameless as other men," Xiao Fan said. "Which man can stand such a test from you?" "Humphrey." Medusa snorted coldly, stretched out her slender hand forward, and the seemingly soft and weak little hand actually emitted a very terrifying force, and suddenly hit Xiao Fan's shoulder. Bang! A dull sound rang out, but Xiao Fan was not repelled by her. Bang! 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 Soon, Xiao Fan and Medusa started a fierce battle in the Source Energy Tower. Medusa's body emitted 9-color brilliance from time to time, and issued colorful attacks. Xiao Fan continued to use various thunder-attributed fighting skills he created. The attacks of the two shook the entire Source Energy Tower with a buzzing sound. Medusa became more and more frightened as she fought. She had already broken through to the realm of a 4-star Zong, and also possessed the blood of a 9-color swallowing sky python, far surpassing the Zong powerhouses of the same level. However, in the battle with Xiao Fan, she was always at a disadvantage. Xiao Fan also took advantage of her from time to time during the battle. Medusa was both frightened and felt a burst of shame and anger. Her originally cold and beautiful face gradually turned red. A quarter of an hour later, Medusa's hands were controlled by Xiao Fan, and the whole person was pressed against the wall of the main hall of the Source Energy Tower. At the same time, Xiao Fan's entire body was almost completely pressed on her. Medusa said angrily, "Damn it, you dare to be rude to me, I will never let you go." Medusa struggled with all her might, but it didn't work. On the contrary, because of her struggle, she felt contact with Xiao Fan, and gradually she also felt a little, sensing the thoughts in her heart. Medusa was even more ashamed and angry. Xiao Fan smiled and said, "You promised me before that you would fight with me. Let's officially start now." After that, Xiao Fan leaned over slightly and blocked Medusa's mouth. Soon, a battle containing the power of creation started again. After 3 consecutive battles, Xiao Fan was also a little tired, so he and Queen Medusa lay directly in the source tower to rest. There was no conversation all night. Time quickly came to the next morning. Xiao Fan looked at the beautiful woman beside him for a while, and there was a sense of accomplishment in his eyes. After kissing Medusa on the forehead, Xiao Fan's mind moved slightly, and he took out 2 sets of clean clothes from the ring and put them on himself and Medusa. Let's go out and find a place to Washington." After putting on the clothes, Xiao Fan said to Medusa, then put his arms around Medusa's slender waist, and with a slight thought, the 2 of them left the Yuanqi Tower together and returned to the cave of the purple crystal-winged Lion King. "Asshole, let me go." After landing on the ground, Medusa said coldly. Xiao Fan said, "Don't worry, I know there is a water source not far away." Xiao Fan took Medusa into the air and soon arrived at the waterfall where he found Yun Yun before. "You wash first, I'll help you guard the surroundings." Xiao Fan put Medusa on the edge of the water and said to Medusa, "Humphrey." Medusa snorted coldly, hesitated in her heart, and stepped into the water. Xiao Fan did not do anything else, but carefully guarded the surroundings for Medusa. After all, Xiao Fan did not want the scene of his woman bathing to be seen by other monsters or humans. After Medusa finished washing, Xiao Fan also washed in the water, and then used his fighting spirit to dry his clothes. Medusa looked at Xiao Fan from the side, with a cold light flashing in her eyes from time to time. Xiao Fan ignored this and smiled. "By the way, I haven't congratulated you yet. You have successfully evolved and your strength has greatly improved." Medusa said coldly, "Humphrey, I thought you would be so kind, but it turns out you have ulterior motives." Xiao Fan defended, "You have wronged me. At first, I was going to trade with you normally, but you didn't want to believe me and jumped into the Azure Lotus Earth Core fire. Speaking of which, if I hadn't rescued you, you might have been burned to ashes by the Azure Lotus Earth Core fire. Moreover, I did let you evolve, even beyond the level of the 7-colored sky-swallowing python that you originally expected, and directly awakened the bloodline of the 9-colored sky-swallowing python." Listening to Xiao Fan's words, Medusa's expression could not help but change, and it seemed that what he said was not wrong. Medusa said in a deep voice, "How do you know the evolution of my bloodline?" Xiao Fan shrugged, "I want to trade with you, so I naturally have to find out about you in advance. As for what happened just now, I am also very sorry. I believe you are also aware of your attraction to men, and you have been honest with me several times, and I couldn't help myself for a while. No matter what, it's my fault that such a thing happened. However, I will be responsible for you to the end." Medusa's mind fluctuated again when she heard this. Almost all the men that Medusa has seen, whether normal humans or snake people, have not been unmoved when they see her. However, no man has ever dared to be rude to her. Even if someone has that idea, they don't have the strength. With thoughts flying in her mind, Medusa said coldly, "This king does not need you to be responsible." I said, "If you dare to be rude to me, I will never let you go. You'd better not give me a chance." Xiao Fan heard this and pretended to sigh. Is it really necessary? However, Xiao Fan would not do something like not resisting and letting Medusa kill him. Medusa is not Yun Yun. Xiao Fan is still unsure of Medusa's thoughts, so he thinks it's better to be careful. HMPH. Medusa looked at Xiao Fan deeply, snorted coldly, and left the place in a flash. Xiao Fan hesitated for a moment, but let her go. After Medusa left, Xiao Fan thought about it, released his soul-sensing power, and quickly found Xiao Yan and Yao Chen. "Third brother, I'm ready to leave the Warcraft mountain range. This is the elixir that my teacher made for my eldest and second brothers. Please pass it on." After Xiao Yan and Xiao Fan reminisced about the past, he got down to business and said to Xiao Fan. Xiao Fan didn't say anything polite, took the elixir casually, nodded and said, "Okay, then you should be careful." Xiao Fan told Xiao Yan a few more words, and then Xiao Yan embarked on a new journey alone. Of course, Yao Chen was also with him in his bone inflammation ring. Looking at Xiao Yan's departing back, Xiao Fan stroked his chin and thought about his next plan. Chapter 97 The Queen's Entanglement. Sudden changes in Shimo City. After a brief pause, Xiao Fan did not rush back to the Desert Iron Mercenary Group, but found the Amethyst-Winged Lion King again. Xiao Fan was planning to study the Amethyst Seal of the Amethyst-Winged Lion King. He had promised Hai Bodong that he would remove the seal for Hai Bodong, and some time had passed. Originally, Xiao Fan wanted Medusa to help Hai Bodong remove the seal. However, now that Medusa has left, he is ready to study the seal technique himself. With his extraordinary understanding, Xiao Fan believes that after a few more experiments, he may be able to deduce the method of casting and breaking the seal. When the Amethyst-Winged Lion King learned of Xiao Fan's request, he agreed to cooperate without hesitation. In fact, in the heart of the Amethyst-Winged Lion King, he hoped that his amethyst seal could really seal Xiao Fan's strength. In that case, it could get rid of Xiao Fan. Start. Cast your amethyst seal. Xiao Fan told the Amethyst-Winged Lion King after finding an open area. Young master, be careful. The purple crystal-winged Lion King warned, and suddenly a purple light shot out from his body, and finally condensed and compressed into a purple light column about half a foot long, shooting towards Xiao Fan. Xiao Fan did not feel any threat from the purple light column. After a slight hesitation, Xiao Fan stopped directly and let the purple light column shoot to his left shoulder. When the purple light column shot to his shoulder, Xiao Fan immediately sensed a special energy, which seemed to seal the fighting spirit in his body. However, the intensity of that energy was a little weak. Xiao Fan felt that he only needed to activate the fighting spirit at any time to easily break through the sealed energy. Xiao Fan did not break through the sealed energy directly, but just suppressed its diffusion speed, while carefully experiencing the characteristics of the seal. Buzz. At this moment, Xiao Fan suddenly sensed that there seemed to be a buzzing sound in the air. An invisible force suddenly shot towards his other shoulder. It was Medusa's unique skill, the serpent seal. At the same time, a white palm suddenly slapped his back. When the palm was about to touch his back, a 9-color light suddenly appeared. Sensing the sudden attack, Xiao Fan couldn't help but laugh. Medusa, you brought this upon yourself. When the voice fell, Xiao Fan's mind moved slightly, and he used the space transfer technique. His figure flashed, and in a flash, he changed his position with Medusa to attack him. The two attacks from Medusa fell on her. The snake seal naturally had no effect on Medusa, but the fighting spirit attack shocked her and made her blood surge, and she retreated repeatedly. Medusa actually didn't leave far before, and she was a little entangled in her heart, not knowing how to deal with Xiao Fan. After thinking for a while, Medusa decided to seal Xiao Fan's fighting spirit first and take him back to the snake people. However, Medusa knew that she was no match for Xiao Fan in a head-on battle, so she decided to attack secretly. Medusa saw that Xiao Fan seemed to be sealed by the purple crystal-winged Lion King, so she took the opportunity to attack Xiao Fan. But obviously, her sneak attack failed. Space transfer. How is it possible? You are a Cheng. After Medusa stabilized her body, she looked in the direction of Xiao Fan, her eyes full of disbelief. Medusa, who had awakened the blood of the 9-colored sky-swallowing python, had a more detailed understanding of the realm of the Dqi continent. The method Xiao Fan just used was clearly a space transfer that could only be performed by a strong person above the 6-starred Sheng. Xiao Fan was only 18 years old. How could he be a 6-starred Sheng? Medusa was really shocked. The purple crystal-winged Lion King on the side was also shocked when he heard what Medusa said. It turned out that Xiao Fan's strength was so strong. Fortunately, I didn't do anything rash before, and it didn't seem shameful to be a magic pet for a 6-starred Sheng. What's more, Xiao Fan had promised before that he could evolve the power of his bloodline for him. Because of Medusa's sudden interference, the purple crystal-winged Lion King mentally contemplated himself and accepted the fact that he had become Xiao Fan's pet. Xiao Fan looked at Medusa's shocked expression and smiled faintly. Liu, I'm not one yet, but, an 18-year-old Zun, I'm qualified to be your man, right? Medusa thought of what happened last night and her face turned cold. Humphrey, it's not that easy to be my man, don't give me a chance. After saying that, Medusa was ready to leave again. I've given you a chance before, you should stay this time. While speaking, Xiao Fan's figure flashed slightly and instantly blocked Medusa's way. When Medusa saw that she was stopped by Xiao Fan, she immediately attacked Xiao Fan without hesitation. Xiao Fan was not polite either. He grabbed Medusa's shoulders, moved his mind slightly, and took her into the Source Energy Tower again. "What do you want to do?" As soon as she entered the Chi Source Tower, Medusa suddenly remembered the battle of creation between the two last night, and her face was filled with shame and anger. Xiao Fan smiled and said, "What? Of course, I want to show my power as a husband." Soon, a fierce battle broke out again in the main hall of the Chi Source Tower. Medusa was beaten by Xiao Fan until her limbs were weak and her voice was hoarse. In the end, she could only admit defeat. After the battle, Xiao Fan prepared a clean piece of clothing for Medusa again. "It seems that I need to prepare more clothes." Looking at the only 3 sets of clothes left in the ring, Xiao Fan couldn't help but think secretly, "Well, I have to prepare a big bed." Medusa has a strong physique and recovered soon. Xiao Fan looked at Medusa who was getting dressed and said with a smile, "Next, you stay by my side. If you want to sneak attack me, you can do it at any time. However, if the sneak attack fails, then I will have to show my power as a husband again." "Shameless." Medusa glared at Xiao Fan and said coldly. But for some reason, there was not much resentment in her heart. Medusa was the king of the snake people, and she was very powerful. Naturally, she looked down on ordinary men. However, Xiao Fan was already a Zun at a young age, and he was also very handsome. In addition, when she was still a snake, Xiao Fan took care of her and helped her evolve her bloodline. Medusa seemed to have a voice in her heart telling her that it was not bad to have a man like Xiao Fan. Xiao Fan smiled. "Thank you for the compliment. Let's go. Let's go." After that, Xiao Fan took Medusa out of the Source Tower. Next, Xiao Fan, Medusa and the Amethyst-Winged Lion King were in the Warcraft Mountains to study the seal. In addition to the Amethyst-Winged Lion King cooperating with Xiao Fan to cast the seal for him to study, Medusa would occasionally sneak attack him, cast the snake seal, or other means of attack. However, no matter what means Medusa used, Xiao Fan could easily resolve it, and then drag Medusa to the Source Tower for a big fight. In the blink of an eye, another 10 days passed. During these 10 days, Xiao Fan and Medusa had fought countless battles. Medusa also changed from being unruly at the beginning to being a little lazy and indifferent. Sometimes she would deliberately provoke Xiao Fan and then have a battle of creation. After 10 days of research, with the blessing of his heaven-defying understanding, Xiao Fan finally figured out the art of sealing and the method of breaking the seal. After achieving his goal, Xiao Fan took Medusa and the Amethyst-Winged Lion King back to Shimo City. When Xiao Fan returned to the courtyard of the Desert Iron Mercenary headquarters, he smelled a pungent smell of blood. The flag of the Desert Iron Mercenary group, which was originally fluttering in the wind, fell to the ground helplessly at this moment, and countless messy footprints were particularly conspicuous. Xiao Fan looked at this scene, and his eyes suddenly revealed a strong murderous intent. Chapter 98, Powerful Attack. Shocking. Xiao Fan took a deep breath and walked forward to slowly push open the gate of the courtyard. As the click sound gradually sounded, the gap in the door also widened. When the door was almost half open, a knife and a gun suddenly stabbed at Xiao Fan's throat and lower abdomen from the gap in the door. Xiao Fan originally planned to wipe out the 2 people who dared to attack him on the spot, but he suddenly recognized that the 2 people who attacked him were from the Modi mercenary group. Humphrey. Xiao Fan's mind turned quickly, and he snorted coldly, and a battle barrier formed in front of him. The attacks of the 2 mercenaries fell on the battle barrier, but were directly rebounded back. Plop, plop. As the sound of 2 heavy objects falling to the ground sounded, the 2 mercenaries who attacked Xiao Fan were also repelled and fell heavily to the ground. Xiao Fan pushed the door open and glanced at the 2 people casually. The 2 mercenaries had blood on their faces and scars on their bodies. One of them had a hideous wound on his neck, which looked very miserable and terrifying. Third young master. The 2 were blown away by Xiao Fan. They were desperate at first, but when they recognized Xiao Fan, they were delighted. Xiao Fan glanced at the 2 and said calmly, "What happened?" Third young master. "Go to the training ground and save the captain and the others. I'm afraid they can't hold on." When Xiao Fan asked, one of them changed his face and reminded him. As soon as the man finished speaking, Xiao Fan disappeared from the spot. Medusa hesitated for a moment and rushed in the direction of Xiao Fan. When Xiao Fan arrived at the training ground, he saw a chaotic scene. The people of the Desert Iron Mercenary Group, led by Zhao Ding and Zhao Li, were fighting with the people of the original Sand Mercenary Group. Zhao Li's opponent was Rob, who was being beaten by Rob at the moment and was in danger. Zhao Ding's opponent was a figure with yellow fighting spirit all over his body, leaving several bloody fist marks on Zhao Ding's body. At this moment, Zhao Ding's face was pale and his breath was very weak. The yellow figure was waving his fist towards Zhao Ding's head. If he was hit by this punch, Zhao Ding would probably die on the spot. Big brother, Captain. Seeing this, Zhao Li and the people of the Desert Iron Mercenary Group suddenly changed their faces and cried out in surprise. Bang! The next moment, an explosion sounded in the training ground. Everyone looked in the direction of the sound, but saw that Zhao Ding's opponent's body suddenly exploded, and blood and flesh flew all over the sky. Third brother, third young master. Soon, all the people of the Desert Iron Mercenary Group cheered. Rob and the people of the Sand Mercenary Group who rebelled with him changed their faces and flashed fear in their eyes. It was because they all saw Xiao Fan suddenly appearing on the training ground. Xiao Fan looked around the field and said calmly, "Big brother, second brother, you take your people to the side, and leave everything to me." Okay. Zhao Ding agreed without hesitation and took the people of the Modi Mercenary Group to one side. Zhao Li was no exception. As for their opponents, they did not dare to make any moves, and the fight in the field soon stopped. This is the healing medicine made by Yanzi. Big brother, please distribute it. Xiao Fan took out a bottle of healing medicine and threw it into Zhao Ding's arms, then looked at Rob and others and said coldly, "Tell me, how do you want to die?" Plop. Rob knelt down on the ground and begged for mercy. "Mr. Zhao, spare my life. I was forced to do it." "Rob, you are really a waste. No wonder a great fighting master is ridden on the head by two fighting masters." Xiao Fan had not yet spoken, but a mocking voice suddenly came from the side. When the voice fell, a group of 5 people walked out from the inside of the Modi Mercenary Group. Judging from the attire of the 5 people, they were obviously not from the Sand Mercenary Group. The leader of the 5 was a middle-aged man with the strength of a grand fighter, and the other 4 were all from the 7-star fighter to the 9-star fighter. Together with the grand fighter killed by Xiao Fan, the strength of this group of people was indeed very strong in the Stone Desert City. It was the middle-aged man at the grand fighter level who had just mocked Rob. Rob immediately said, "Mr. Zhao, they are from the Mohist school, and they forced me to deal with the Desert Iron Mercenary Group." In fact, Rob's words were half true and half false. Rob led his people to rebel and deal with the people of the Desert Iron Mercenary Group, and he was indeed bewitched by the Mohist school, but he was also somewhat unwilling to see his years of hard work go to waste. After the Mohist school found him, they said something that made him think that Xiao Fan must have used some means to walk in the air, because no one in the entire Jiama Empire, or even the Northwest continent, had ever heard of an 18-year-old Zhang. Since Xiao Fan is Zhao Ding and Zhao Li's biological brother, he can't be from Zhangzhou, so how could he be a Zhang? Moreover, apart from showing his ability to step into the air, Xiao Fan didn't seem to show any tricks in front of them. That's why, after the Mo family's analysis, Rob thought it made sense and he had second thoughts. It's the Mo family. Zhao Ding's face suddenly turned ugly when he heard the name of the Mo family, and he was a little worried. Xiao Fan raised his eyebrows slightly when he heard it. "The Mo family, you are really looking for death." The great Shi headed by the Mo family heard Xiao Fan's words and sneered. "I think it's you who is looking for death. You dare to hinder our Mo family's actions. Not only you, but your family will also pay the price for this." Several people from the Mo family had just gone to the Motai Mercenary Group to plunder money and property, so they didn't see Xiao Fan take action. The people headed by the Mo family felt that the cultivation level of a 5-star Great Shi was enough to suppress everything in Shimo City. They didn't think Xiao Fan could be so powerful at such a young age, so he was arrogant right from the start. Xiao Fan glanced at a few people casually, too lazy to say anything to them. He waved his hand and a giant thunder palm suddenly appeared, pressing down on the 5 people of the Mo family. Sensing the terrifying aura in the giant thunder palm, the faces of the 5 people of the Mo family suddenly changed drastically. and their original arrogant attitude turned into a look of fear. Bang! A dull sound rang out. Before they had time to react, they were directly beaten into meat paste by the giant thunder palm. On the meat paste, there were terrifying lightning arcs flashing continuously, and a burnt smell came from the meat paste. Hiss! Seeing this scene, everyone present couldn't help but take a breath. Not to mention Rob and the people of the Sand Mercenary Group. Even the people of the Mo Iron Mercenary Group were frightened by Xiao Fan's terrifying means. Before this, Xiao Fan had always behaved very kindly in front of the people of the Desert Iron Mercenary Group. In addition to knowing that Xiao Fan could walk in the air, they had never seen Xiao Fan's attack methods. This time, they saw it. Xiao Fan ignored the others and looked at Rob again, saying lightly, "Did the Mo family capture my maid Qinglin?" After learning that the Mo family had intervened in Shimo City, Xiao Fan immediately thought of the deeds of Qinglin in the original book. He used the power of his soul to sense it, but did not sense Qinglin's breath nearby, so he asked this question. Chapter 99, Lift the Seal and Rush to Mohist's School. Hearing this, Rob said quickly, "You are right. The little girl named Qinglin was captured by the elder of the Mo family. Soon after, the Mo family contacted me and threatened me to cooperate with them to kill all the people in the Modi mercenary group." Xiao Fan said calmly, "Just a threat? Is there also an inducement? Did the Mo family say that as long as you cooperate with them, they will support you to regain control of the Sand Mercenary Group and dominate the Stone Desert City?" "Mr. Xiao, spare my life. I was really forced. If I don't agree, they will kill me and find someone else to cooperate with." Rob was shocked when he heard Xiao Fan's words, and he kowtowed quickly. Xiao Fan ignored Rob's plea for mercy, flicked his fingers slightly, and a lightning flash instantly shot to Rob's forehead. Rob's forehead was pierced on the spot, and at the same time, the whole body was flashing with lightning arcs, and his body soon became charred. After dealing with Rob, Xiao Fan also dealt with the people who followed Rob in rebellion. Seeing the rest of the people in the field looking frightened, Xiao Fan said calmly, "Everyone, see clearly. This is the fate of betrayers. I'm giving you a chance now. If you want to leave the Desert Iron Mercenary Group, you can leave now. I won't pursue you, but after today, if you have any second thoughts, I will grind him to ashes." The rest of the people, after hearing Xiao Fan's words, did not plan to leave. They had chosen to be loyal to the Desert Iron Mercenary Group, and now that they have seen how powerful Xiao Fan is, their loyalty to the Desert Iron Mercenary Group has become even higher. Xiao Fan glanced at everyone, and then said to Xiao Ding, "Brother, you take the brothers to heal first. I'll be back soon." Xiao Ding said with some concern, "Third brother, are you going to the Mo family?" The Mo family is not simple. In addition to the fact that the head of the Mo family is a Ling, they also have the Yunlin sect as a backer. Xiao Fan smiled and said, "Brother, don't worry, the Yunlin sect is nothing in front of me. However, I am not going to the Mo family now, but to find a friend." After that, Xiao Fan said to Medusa on the side, "Come with me." Humphrey. Medusa snorted coldly, but still followed Xiao Fan's pace. After Xiao Fan took Medusa out of the Modi mercenary group, they turned around in the city and soon came to a shabby map shop. "What are you doing here?" Medusa saw this and couldn't help but be a little confused. Xiao Fan smiled mysteriously. "There is an old friend of yours here." "My old friend?" Medusa raised her eyebrows slightly and walked into the shop. "Mr. Xiao, you are here." In the shop, Hai Bodong greeted Xiao Fan when he saw him coming. Medusa looked at Hai Bodong for a while and said lightly, "Why do you have my snake seal on you?" Hai Bodong's body shook slightly when he heard this, and he looked at Medusa beside Xiao Fan with a complicated expression. Xiao Fan smiled and said, "This is Hai Bodong, the Ice Emperor, one of the 10 strongest men in the Jiama Empire. You sealed his strength at the beginning." "Humphrey, what kind of old friend is this?" Medusa rolled her eyes at Xiao Fan when she heard this, and no longer paid attention to Hai Bodong. Hai Bodong was not Medusa's opponent at the beginning. Now Medusa has broken through to the 4-star Zong, while Hai Bodong only has Ling strength left, and she doesn't take him seriously. Ahem. Hai Bodong was also a little embarrassed when he heard what Xiao Fan and Medusa said. Xiao Fan didn't care. "I came here to help you remove the seal. You should remember the agreement between us, right?" Hai Bodong nodded and said, Of course I remember. After you remove the seal for me, I will go to the Xiao family. Xiao Fan said, before that, you stay in the Desert Iron Mercenary Group in Shimo City and take care of my 2 brothers for me. 3 days later, you will go to the Xiao family. Xiao Fan was going to go to the Mo family in person to completely destroy the Mo family, including the time for traveling back and forth. Xiao Fan felt that 3 days was enough. Hai Bodong said, okay. Hai Bodong didn't care too much about this little thing. Xiao Fan nodded slightly, then stretched out his hand and put it on Hai Bodong's shoulder. With a slight movement of his mind, he began to help him remove the seal. During this period of time, after practicing with the purple crystal winged Lion King and Medusa, Xiao Fan had deduced the method of casting and removing the seal. A quarter of an hour later, the seal on Hai Bodong was directly broken by Xiao Fan. However, due to the sequelae left by the long-term seal, Hai Bodong's cultivation has only recovered to the level of a 2-starred Huang. Despite this, Hai Bodong was very happy. Haha, good. My strength is finally back. Xiao Fan said lightly. Congratulations. Hai Bodong hurriedly said, I also want to thank Mr. Xiao for his help. Xiao Fan casually said, it's just a deal between you and me, so you don't have to be polite. Hee. Hai Bodong chuckled, and then said, don't worry, I will definitely not regret it. While speaking, Hai Bodong took out the remaining part of the Pure Lotus Demon Fire map and handed it to Xiao Fan. Xiao Fan put away the remaining map. Let's go. We will go to the Desert Iron Mercenary Group now. Okay. Hai Bodong nodded and agreed, and then walked towards the Desert Iron Mercenary Group with Xiao Fan. Medusa looked at Xiao Fan deeply and followed behind him. Medusa was still a little surprised that Xiao Fan broke her snake seal so easily. Xiao Fan brought Hai Bodong to the Modi Mercenary Corps, briefly introduced Xiao Ding and Xiao Li, and then took Medusa with him and left the Modi Mercenary Corps to the Mo family. Yancheng is an important city located in the eastern province of the Gama Empire. It is the only way from the empire to the eastern province, and its strategic location is very good. Therefore, the Gama Empire has stationed heavy troops to guard this city all year round. In Yancheng, apart from the power of the empire, the most powerful is the Mo family that Xiao Fan is going to deal with this time. Deep in the Mo family courtyard, in a dim secret room, several figures are sitting in it. Mo Lin. Is the situation of the girl confirmed? An old man with gray hair and wearing a gray gown asked indifferently. This old man is the great elder of the Mo family, Mo Cheng. Hearing Mo Cheng's question, the middle-aged man named Mo Lin hurriedly said, replying to the elder, it has been confirmed that the little girl does have the legendary green snake triple flower pupil. Mo Cheng's eyes lit up when he heard this. Very good. I didn't expect that I was so lucky to encounter this kind of green snake triple flower pupil that has not yet fully matured. Let's go. I want to personally watch and take off this pair of green snake triple flower pupils. After saying that, Mo Cheng stood up, pushed open the door of the secret room, and went to the next secret room. There, King Lin was tied to a wooden frame, and several servants of the Mo family were making some preparations for the transplant of eyes. Elder, seeing Mo Cheng coming, several people hurriedly saluted and greeted him. Mo Cheng nodded slightly, looking at King Lin's eyes, as if he was looking at a rare treasure. King Lin said with some fear, what are you going to do? Let me go, you bad guys. Hee. After I take your eyes, I will naturally let you go and send you on your way. Mo Cheng stared at King Lin's eyes and said sinisterly. King Lin was even more frightened when he heard it. Woo, third young master, King Lin will never see you again. Mo Cheng smiled sinisterly. Don't worry, your third young master will go to accompany you soon. Really? At this moment, an indifferent voice suddenly sounded faintly in everyone's ears. Chapter 100 Rescue King Lin. New members join the group. Boom. The next moment, the secret room was suddenly broken from the outside. Mo Cheng and other members of the Mo family. The broken fragments of the wall shot down towards Mo Cheng and other members of the Mo family. A transparent air shield appeared out of thin air around King Lin, covering her. The scattered debris had no effect on her. Damn it! Mo Cheng cursed angrily, urged his fighting spirit, and shook off all the surrounding rubble. The whole person quickly flew out of the secret room. The other members of the Mo family also used their own methods and fled out. Boom. Then, a deafening sound sounded, and the secret room of the Mo family collapsed directly. At the same time, a handsome young man in a green shirt floated into the sight of several people. Next to the young man, King Lin was holding his arm tightly like a docile kitten. There was no doubt that this young man was Xiao Fan, who came from Shimo City. On the other side of Xiao Fan, Queen Medusa stood quietly with a lazy look. In the original novel, Xiao Yan went to the Mo family to save King Lin, looking very cautious, and even specially inquired about the detailed information of the Mo family before rushing to the Mo family. Xiao Fan now has a powerful cultivation of the three-starred Sun realm, and his soul power is extremely powerful, so there is naturally no need to go through so much trouble. After Xiao Fan brought Queen Medusa to Yancheng, he found the location of the Mo family by casually asking around. Then Xiao Fan released a powerful soul-sensing power and quickly found King Lin. When Xiao Fan sensed King Lin, he also sensed Mo Cheng and others. Hearing their conversation, his heart was already full of murderous intent. "Assholes, who are you? Dare to go wild in my Mo family?" Mo Cheng saw Xiao Fan and Medusa and shouted angrily. Xiao Fan ignored them and turned to King Lin, who was holding his arm, and asked, "King Lin, are you okay?" King Lin shook his head. "I'm fine. They wanted to dig out my eyes, but they haven't succeeded yet." Xiao Fan nodded slightly and asked again, "How do you want to deal with them?" King Lin frowned and thought for a while, then shook his head and said, "I don't know, third young master, you decide." Medusa, who was standing aside, looked at Xiao Fan's doting on King Lin. For some reason, she felt a little uncomfortable in her heart. Looking for death, Mo Cheng couldn't help shouting in anger when he saw that Xiao Fan dared to ignore him. As soon as the voice fell, Mo Cheng's left arm shook violently, and a fierce dark force shattered his sleeve. On the arm exposed in the air, the blue veins were like little snakes, constantly pulsating, and the palm suddenly became much wider. The originally normal nails also suddenly increased many times, and appeared pitch black. At this time, Mo Cheng's arm had already left the human form and looked completely like the limbs of a monster. Mo Cheng stomped his foot hard on the ground, and the whole person rushed towards Xiao Fan like a cannonball. At the same time, dark red flames appeared on his arms, carrying a fierce and wild breath. This was the mountain-breaking arm formed by Mo Cheng transplanting the forelimb of a 5th-level demon beast, the blazing mountain-breaking rhino, onto his body. Xiao Fan looked at Mo Cheng's appearance and couldn't help but shake his head slightly. This guy who is neither human nor ghost is really disgusting. As the voice fell, Xiao Fan swung a palm force through the air. Boom! A thunderous sound suddenly rang in the air, and a terrifying giant thunder palm suddenly appeared in the air and slapped Mo Cheng hard. Bang! With a loud bang, Mo Cheng's body was directly beaten into a pulp by the giant thunder palm, and purple lightning arcs flashed on the pulp, which made the other Mo family members tremble with fear. "My lord, spare my life." Seeing this, Mo Lin and other Mo family members knelt on the ground and begged for mercy loudly. Xiao Fan didn't bother to deal with them at all, and casually slapped his palm again, killing several people directly. After dealing with these people, Xiao Fan pondered for a moment, and then eliminated all the people above the Daoshi realm of the Mo family. Then, Xiao Fan emptied all the property and martial arts that the Mo family had accumulated over the years. Let's go back to Shimo City," Xiao Fan said to King Lin and Medusa after doing all this. This time, King Lin was captured by Mo Cheng and brought to the Mo family in advance, so the plot of the Mo family's birthday banquet in the original book did not appear. The man and beast from the Tench mansion also did not arrive. Since King Lin has been rescued, Xiao Fan is naturally too lazy to continue wasting time in Yancheng. "Yeah." King Lin heard the words and nodded without hesitation. She didn't want to stay in a place like the Mo family for a moment. Medusa didn't have any objection to this. Immediately, Xiao Fan took King Lin into the air, and Medusa flew beside them. More than an hour later, Xiao Fan and his 3 companions returned to Shimo City, the headquarters of the Desert Iron Mercenary Group. Seeing Xiao Fan and King Lin return safely, Zhao Ding and Zhao Li were relieved. When they learned that Xiao Fan had directly killed all the people in the Mo family who were above the Qi realm, they were shocked again. Next, Xiao Fan temporarily stayed in the Desert Iron Mercenary Group. Xiao Fan gave all the pills that Xiao Yan refined to improve strength, as well as the pills he looted from the Mo family, to Zhao Ding and Zhao Li, and then personally watched them practice to improve their strength. With the help of Xiao Fan, the cultivation of the two people was rapidly improving, and it would not take long for them to break through the Great Qi realm. During this period, Xiao Fan also let King Lin enter the awakening pool, and completely awakened the green snake 3 flower pupils, as well as the blood of the ancient sky snake. Of course, it was inevitable that Xiao Fan and Medusa would fight from time to time. On this day, Xiao Fan was teaching King Lin to practice hand in hand, but suddenly the reminder sound of the Wanji chat group sounded in his mind. Ding. Yubuku joins the chat group. Ding. Tushan Hongong joins the chat group. Another newcomer joins the group. Hearing the chat group prompt, Xiao Fan's heart moved slightly, and he said to King Lin, "You practice by yourself first. If you don't understand something, you can ask your sister Kaylin. I have something to do and I'll go back to my room first." The Kaylin mentioned by Xiao Fan is naturally Queen Medusa. Xiao Fan gave her this name after fighting with Queen Medusa. Queen Medusa was not used to it at first, but gradually accepted it. King Lin is very well behaved and cute. Medusa gets along well with her and often calls her sisters. After Xiao Fan returned to the room, he directly immersed his consciousness in the Wanji chat group. At this moment, in the Wanji chat group, there are already other people bubbling to welcome the newcomers. Xiaoxiao, at Yubuku, at Tushan Hongong, welcome the newcomers to the group. Welcome newcomers. Yan Lingjai, newcomers can sign in first to get points. After getting points, don't forget to send red envelopes. Playful. Xiao Fan, at Yubuku, at Tushan Hongong, welcome to join the group. If you are lucky enough to join the group, you will all be friends. Group members will help each other and make progress together. Xiao Fan, at Xiaoxiao, you should introduce the chat group to the newcomers. Xiaoxiao, yes, Lord Thunder Emperor. Bow fist. Xiaoxiao, at Yubuku, at Tushan Hongong, by order of Lord Thunder Emperor, I will introduce the chat group function to you, the 10,000 Worlds chat group. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.